The February Burleigh County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. And if we can go through a roll call and ensure we have quorum. Marla, if you could take us through that.
All right. Commissioner Bittner. Commissioner Conley.
Here.
Commissioner Jarrett. Commissioner Munson.
Here.
Commissioner Patrick.
Here.
Commissioner Rich.
Here.
Commissioner Streifel. Here. Commissioner Zuroff.
Here.
And Chairman.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Fantastic. Okay, we'll move into the approval of the January 8th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Second.
All right, it has been moved for approval by Commissioner Patrick, seconded by Commissioner Conley, we'll say. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Any issues that need to be corrected? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes from the January 8th, 2025 meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none. Minutes are approved. All right, we get to move right into our public hearings for tonight. We have 3 public hearings on the docket. The first one is going to be the Article 8 Special Uses Solar Farms. So Mitch will take us through some details, and then we'll open up the public hearing for public input.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thanks for showing up on a cold night. The first one up here tonight, we have 3 ordinances to discuss. The first one is the amending Article 8 solar farms. It has been necessary to consider amending the current Article 8 to include solar farms under a special use permit. Section dedicated to this application will allow for development of on-site renewable energy systems such as an accessory use in any district and solar farms within an agricultural district. Article 8 ordinance for solar farms was presented to the Planning Commission on July 10th and September 11th, with the first public hearing held on November 13th. This is the second and final hearing for this, unless you guys want to table it for another meeting. The changes from last time we met on this ordinance are highlighted in yellow. And there are some typo errors that I have to correct. I've noticed at the beginning on the heading of North Dakota relating to Section 29. We haven't determined the section yet. That needs to be removed. And there's another one on in the data centers. But if there are any, let me know, because my tired eyes kind of has a hard time looking these after a while. So, has anybody got any questions on the changes, or did you consider other changes, or to proceed with discussion on it?
Any questions for Mitch? Questions or changes necessary?
John Risch here.
Yes,
Can you
go
hear
ahead.
me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about the $1,000 fee, and I did give Mitch a heads up about this. So if I'm just going to put solar panels on my house or my barn or something like that, would I have to pay that $1,000?
No. Chair Agnew,
Yes.
Commissioner Rich, there are 2 items. There's subsection A, which states $300, whichever is greater. Basically, we'll look at this if you times the project cost times 0.001. If it's greater than 300, I mean, there are a lot of considerations for a private owner putting up a solar panel on top of a barn. The $1,000 price is for very large, complex projects that take a while to review, and this is a common price throughout North Dakota for these in the counties that have a solar ordinance in place.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I just, will was worried about some guy with a very small project having to pay $1,000.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that, we understand that. It's, the $300 is the minimum price for a special use permit,
And
a cost.
All right, thank you, Mitch. Any other questions for Mitch? Yes, Commissioner Patrick?
Mitch, is there a place in here where it does exempt private residences from that fee? Or should there be a motion in there or a statement in there?
I did not include anything that would exempt a residential project.
Chairman Agnew.
Yes, Commissioner Zuroff.
I think just looking through the definitions, it's pretty clear because they do define a solar farm and a building, where was that at? A building integrated solar system individually. So, I mean, considering this is for solar farms, and a solar farm is defined within the definition within this ordinance as a commercial facility, basically with the intent for wholesale sales of that energy. While this private, if they're just putting a solar panel up to supplement or to cut down on their energy bill or to power a well or anything like that, that clearly does not fit within any of the definitions within any of them.
Yeah, Commissioner Patrick, yeah.
Well, I agree that it looks that way, but when you look at the standard, you're talking about solar systems, and it doesn't say, it says section, whatever, solar energy systems, and if you look, it says, like for instance, it talks about solar collector or solar farm, but the solar collector says a device, structure, or part of the device or structure that the primary purpose is to transform solar radiant energy into thermal, mechanical, chemical, or electrical energy. So I'm just wondering, could that be confusing?
Sure, Agnew.
Yes, go ahead, Mitch.
This ordinance allows accessory solar energy systems on any district in our zoning. So the idea is if somebody wants to throw some solar panels on top of their house or in the yard, neighbors may not want that. Some of these solar panels are large, and they, it's kind of a, I don't know, if you want to start exempting residential use, then we may run into problem of neighbors not wanting solar panels next to them. This ordinance allows for an accessory use.
Any other questions for Mitch? Any other clarifications, changes necessary?
I just want to
Yeah,
comment on the neighbors not wanting my solar panels on my house. I mean, what the heck? I mean, that doesn't seem to be much of a consideration. I mean, if I want to put solar panels on, what's the problem with that?
Okay.
I could see, Chair
Yeah, go
Agnew,
ahead.
I could see many problems with that. They could be large, they could block your view, they could be dominating the landscape, they could be, there would be no stop of how many solar panels they would want to put on their property. I'm not saying they're going to, but what happens if they do?
Well, maybe we could just limit it to those on the rooftop. Most people just are flatly laying on the roof. I'm down here in Arizona. My son's got them on his roof. I don't think he had to get any special permission.
Certainly.
Yeah. Commissioner Streifel, did you have?
I did, but I'll let you finish. your-
Okay, Commissioner Patrick, go ahead.
Well, Mitch, you refer you to page 1 of that, in your first paragraph, and partway down it says, consistent with Burleigh County Commission, Burleigh County Comprehensive, is the intent of the county with this section to create standards for reasonable capture and use by households, businesses.
And property owner.
Yeah. it's-
And so, I'm wondering, there might need to be some clarification, I'm thinking,
Clarification on what?
whether households are
They've
going to
always
be-
been in here, Commissioner Patrick. Chair Agnew, it's an accessory use. It's defined, if it's not a solar farm, then it's an accessory use for a household or a business or any of them. The idea is if you want to limit it, if you want to allow them to put roof-mounted solar panels on there, that's fine, let's put it in there. But to allow them in any district without any oversight, your neighbors are you're gonna upset some people.
I understand, but how will that fee apply? That's the concern.
Still special use, public hearings,
Okay.
advertisement, pay for you guys to be here, pay for, well, they don't pay me, I get,
And then,
I'm exempt for overtime, so, you know, that's the cost of a special use permit. If you wanna exempt the solar panels from roof-mounted solar panels arrays, that's fine.
so the 300 is the cost of the special use permit.
Yes,
And then
that pays
the-
for, that pays for this,
Yep.
that pays for public hearing, that pays for notices, it pays staff time, and, yeah.
I think the confusion that's coming up is the application fee instead of the permit. The permit fee is 300, the application fee is the 1,000. And then there's. Or the
$300. Whichever is greater.
whichever's greater, as what, 1/10 of 1% of the total project cost.
Yes,
Right. Okay.
yeah, there's two separate categories for that. Once you get over the $300, then, you know, then you have to pay the 1,000. But
Gotcha.
there's considerations on a private owner wanting to put up solar arrays on a roof. I mean, it's, if they're putting it in themselves, it's, you know. The idea is not for generating an income or a profit to Burleigh County for these permits. The idea is to allow the public to have consideration of these coming into their properties and having property rights
Okay.
and protect them.
Yep.
I don't care about solar arrays on a rooftop. I think they'd be great. It wouldn't bother me, but, I mean, if you want to have an exception for that, absolutely, let's put it in.
Okay. Is that, have we gotten to the clarity we need on the fees?
Well, John Risch here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think we require any special permit for a backup generator, which is kind of along the same lines. I would like to see an exception for solar panels on a single-family dwelling. I mean, what the heck? I don't know how that interferes with any of my neighbors.
And let's see, Commissioner Rich, would you, what would you pull out of here for? I mean, obviously, in the first section, it's talking about households, but would we then have to pull out the rooftop solar energy systems, number 1 on page 3 of 9?
I'm looking at it. I never really thought it through. It just when it was brought up, I
Yeah.
thought, what the heck? It's got a primary use, accessory or primary use. Yeah, I'm not talking about somebody building a solar farm or somebody that's trying to export. You know, as long as they have permission or an agreement with their electrical provider, so it's done safely and it's all approved. I just really don't understand why we have to regulate a individual's home with solar panels for the dwelling at all. Just exempt them somehow. Mitch is a bright guy; he can figure that out.
Commissioner Agnew,
Yes.
I would have limitations on allowing just put them wherever you want on your residential property. Some of these properties are large. Some of these are 10 acres. Some of these are 20 acres.
No. Maybe you didn't understand me. I'm talking about rooftop solar panels on a single-family dwelling.
Oh, that's not what I heard. I thought you were mentioning
No,
no
no,
restrictions
no,
on
no.
residential, so. No, that's fine. I mean, you want to exempt rooftops, I'd have to rewrite these sections.
And that, I think the rewrite would just come in number 1, the rooftop solar energy system. That's
Yep.
where the change would be, and then also the households in the I guess the forward or the section 1.
Yeah,
I think those would be the only changes that we may have to make if we were going to do that.
Section 1.
Right after
These
the,
by
right
household.
after the yellow,
I would, I would put exemptions on there. I mean, myself, I don't see an exemption for households. I think that you should put an exemption for rooftop in households.
sure.
But residential, we have large 30-acre lots, 20-acre lots, 10-acre lots that can easily put up a lot of solar panels. And they're saying they're going to exempt themselves because of residential.
I guess
Well-
I'll just mention this, is that now it is household, does that include your detached garage, your shop, those types of things? Is it just the primary dwelling? I don't know, Commissioner Rich, if that was what you were looking at, or would you exempt basically all buildings in the residential area?
My recommendation is a single-family dwelling, solar panels. If somebody wants to put them up, just like they'd put a backup generator, what the heck? Good for them. As long as they've got a proper agreement with the Capital Electric or whatever their provider is. So it's done safely and has the correct permits.
So just on the dwelling?
Just on the dwelling is my thought. Anybody, I mean, I appreciate any input from some of the other commissioners.
Could you define the dwelling, what are these, we're talking two different things. Rooftop, solar panels,
Right.
or ground-mounted panels on a residential area, what are we talking, we need to
Right.
single these out.
And I believe, Commissioner Rich, if I just can clarify what you're talking about, the way I'm understanding it is the primary dwelling in a residential setting, rooftop only.
Correct.
If it were gonna be ground mounted or on an accessory building or anything like that,
Right.
that's a different story, and that still falls under this, non-exempted.
That's my suggestion. You stated it perfectly.
Okay.
Chairman, so
yes,
the
Commissioner
cleaned up
Zeroff.
verbiage would be something to the effect of occupied residential structures and accessory buildings on occupied residentially zoned properties would be exempt from consideration.
Say that again.
Something to that effect. I don't even know if I can, but.
Yeah, yes, Commissioner Conley.
And that, within it, the same section, I think you could get it in under the rooftop solar systems. But, and to help out, because we've been vetting this for a while and things, we could say, have the suggestion as a condition. We could approve this so it can go to the actual county commission with the condition that addendum's on there, so we don't have to carry the public hearing another month.
Correct.
I believe, so,
Yes.
so,
Yeah, I'll have to run this by
And that-
Commissioner Munson and Bittner and see if they would let it. They'd like to see a finished document.
right,
They don't want a lot of discussion. And so, I mean, this is fairly simple. Just exempt roof-mounted solar panels from a residential building, the primary structure,
Right,
only.
right.
correct.
Yes.
And that's what I was gonna say is that, I mean, if the primary residence has an attached garage, primary resident, make it exclusive. You can always amend it later. With this being brand new, just scale and scope it to that. And
They can-
then, because a lot of people builds detached buildings, saying it's for one purpose and they use it for another. We all know it happens. So that would be a way to get ahead of that a little bit. But even maybe mentioning, does it have to be an exemption, or can you list it by right? And if problems exist, you can always amend it later too.
I'd like to see it as an exemption because the exemptions are black and white.
Okay.
They're not misinterpreted, and the other thing is that if they wanted I mean, there are always appeals to this. If an owner comes up and wants to put a solar panel on his house, and he wants to put another one on his barn, they can always appeal that to the county commission instead of changing this ordinance.
Okay.
If these appeals are fairly understandable, and they've got a reason for it, then they can certainly appeal to this exemption to allow it on their barn as well. Who
You
knows?
can always get a variance, correct.
Variance, and that's, I mean, that's considerations.
Okay.
But we can also, I'll talk to Commissioner Munson and Commissioner Bittner about it, but I would like to keep the exemption as part of it as just black and white, one exemption.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then one last thing, and then
Yeah,
I
go
think,
ahead.
Commissioner, there are people that have experience with solar in the room. So when they come up and talk, if they choose to, maybe they can explain some of the more modest but systems that make sense, say on a rooftop. So we have something on our monitors and things to where people can reference them, as we're not going off the road and making up things, but things that make sense. So
Yeah, it's after you're done grilling me, you can have them come up.
All right, any other questions for Mitch? Any other changes? Yeah, Commissioner Streifel.
On page 1, where it says, and I'm trying to find it here again. Limited adverse impact on nearby properties. Is there a way we can change that to be where it's not so subjective?
What section are you in?
Page 1's the section that starts with Burleigh County finds that it is in the public interest to encourage the use and development of renewable energy systems.
Okay. That has a positive impact on energy conservation with limited adverse effect on impact, and adverse impact on neighbors.
Right. I find that limited adverse impact is quite subjective. I'd like it to say no adverse impact. And I know that's probably not something everybody's going to agree on. Maybe a word like minimal. I don't know. It just seems really subjective.
Well, we're trying to reduce the adverse impact. We don't want that.
Right.
So limited means, I can put whatever you want, it doesn't matter.
The whole statement's subjective, though.
It is.
Yeah, the whole statement is subjective.
Because what's an adverse
And
effect?
the eye of the beholder and,
Yeah.
right.
I don't, it may be 500 feet off the road, but I don't like looking at it when I drive by.
Right. That's why I would like it to say no adverse impact.
But that would be
Chairman?
an adverse impact.
Yes, Commissioner Rich.
Well, I think if we went with no adverse impact, you might have a neighbor that just doesn't like his neighbor and just makes something up. And, no is a pretty strong thing. He'd be able to veto the guy's power of putting up solar panels on his house. I think Mitch did a pretty good job on limited adverse impact.
Commissioner Agnew,
Yes.
the whole sentence is intended to consider neighbors' rights, property owners' rights. That's where we get into the zoning of who has more rights. And so it's a limited adverse impact is what I thought was good, but if you say no adverse impact, then I'm gonna get up there and say, this is impacting me.
Yeah, Commissioner Patrick.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you want to say no because somebody can look out the front window and say, I see those solar panels, and I don't like that.
Right.
I'm just trying to think of a word that is
Yeah.
less than limited that still works.
Well, I think
Minimal,
limited
yeah.
will work because the county commission can be, it can be appealed to the county commission.
Right.
Correct.
Well, and
Okay.
that's the whole idea between a special use permit is it's case by case. So this would be like the thesis beginning of paper, so to speak, and then the next 9 pages are the nuts and bolts that define it further. Watching enough of these planning and zoning meetings, it doesn't have to occur right away, but some of the things that I've seen get both the county and the city into some conversational pickles are like your setbacks and those type of things. If they could be like on page 5 of 9, where it just says property shall be at least 10 acres in size. If there's just a little underline or a highlight there, those are some of the things that get mixed up in conversation sometimes, and that might embolden it a little bit more on what Commissioner Streifel was going for. I actually wrote down some words and found that later on they were actually in there, so then I scribbled them out because it wasn't necessary. but one of them I have in here within 500 feet of a proposed solar farm. Just that within the 500 feet, having an underline possibly, just because then it's further defined and drawing attention to it.
What section is that, Commissioner Conley?
I can hand you, then I don't have to go case by case unless you want them as
Well,
examples.
yeah, I mean,
The first one I have is page 4 of 9, right at the top, under number 2. I just have 10% underline, which could be a highlight of the total property lot size.
section 2 on page 3?
Yes, yeah.
which,
Section page, section 2,
4.
page 4, actually.
Top of
4 of 9,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay,
And I went with kind of examples. You would know all of the ins and outs on things that would have to be mentioned during special use permits, so I just underlined the 10%. And then I went on page 5 of 9, I underlined 10 acres. You'd have to read the whole sentence to know what that means, but that little draw would say, hey, this is important.
I don't understand your
You
logic
basically-
here. The 10 acres is because that's where agricultural zoning starts.
But you're looking at just underlining it in
Underlining,
the, just putting
highlighting
an
it, bring
underline
it
in
to
it.
attention,
Yeah.
bold it.
Oh, you
is-
want me to bold just the 10 acres?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what
just
he's
an underlining. Yep.
Okay, okay.
And that just, I'll give you an example. I might get the footage wrong, but some of the ones that have come up in other conversations where it should be a 50-yard setback from the center of a road, and then all of a sudden you get into a meeting and they met with staff and somebody measured it 50 feet from the edge of the road. And then it ended up being this whole thing over a 2 or 3 thing meeting.
Sure.
To where if you're highlighting these specific amounts, maybe that draws attention that maybe somebody did misspeak, and if it comes up in a meeting and saves you 3 meetings, that's a benefit.
Well, if you have a list, I could certainly,
Yeah.
what, you have it here with you, or you can email
Well, yeah,
it?
I have them underlined here in
Okay.
the packet. I can just
All right.
hand them to you.
Sure,
All right,
that's
so
fine.
Commissioner Conley will get you the, some, like more grammatical edits, I would
Yeah.
say, yes.
So, but
And
maybe
highlights.
that is enough, because then that would draw attention to the special use permit, because commissioners even cycle in and out, and different perspectives cycle in and
Oh,
out,
sure.
so.
So,
All right, any other items for Mitch before we open the public hearing?
Commissioner Agnew,
Yes.
this was reviewed evaluated for the impacts of the project after the ordinance. You'll see it in the packet. So you have any questions on that? Those are questions that we try to figure out, okay, what's this impact from this ordinance going to be? And so they're addressed in those sections on the side. So I don't know if you have any questions on that.
Any pieces of that? He's talking about the one that's right after, in our packet, it's right after the signature page. And it's just called, it just says solar on the top. And has the kind of the overall studies, impacts, those types of things that are kind of a bit of a summary, yeah.
It does have the evidence of electrical approval. You asked me about that, Commissioner Munson, in an email. And Greg was kind enough to send that to us from the CEC.
Okay.
So we include that, and Marla sent it to you guys this week to look at.
All right, Mitch, anything else for Mitch before we open the public hearing? Seeing nothing, thank you, Mitch.
Yep.
Okay, we will move into the public hearing. Before we open this, I'll just let everyone know that if you are going to speak in this public hearing, please approach the lectern tell us who you are, where you're from, and sign in on the piece of paper or the roster that is on the lectern. So we will now open the public hearing. The public hearing is for Article 8, Special Uses Solar Farms.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Ryan Warner. I'm from Bismarck, North Dakota. I'm one of the co-founders of LightSpring. We're an energy technology developer based out of Bismarck. My other co-founder, Jim, is in the audience today. He has pictures and other helpful audiovisual aids. If you guys have any questions for us about solar or solar development, I would have some line item comments on some of the proposed language. But before we start, I want to just kind of share some of our perspective. It might inform some of the discussion earlier about residential exemptions. So from the developer standpoint, we think of things in terms of scale. And so we have residential scale, which is typically 10 to 20 kW AC systems that mostly go on the rooftop, sometimes go on a ground mount, depending on the customer. And they're designed to offset consumption that happens at the house. And that's the best way to help those systems cash flow for the system owners. Very rarely they'll be sent back to the grid and then they'll get some compensation, but mostly it's about offsetting the consumption that happens at a house level. And so that's the residential level. And then a little bit above that is what we call small commercial. And so these would be business owners that have a little bit more consumption and they're looking to self-consume their own production. And those systems are about 25 kW all the way up to 100 kW. And so we've installed several of those systems here in Bismarck, some at United Tribes, some at Spas, et cetera, on Main Street. And again, they're designed to offset on-site consumption. Typically, it's going to be a rooftop unless they have some space for a ground mount, but usually it's just all about reducing consumption by self-producing. And then above 100 kW, we call large commercial. And it's the same thing. It's a large commercial user, let's say like a Cloverdale or a Bobcat, which has consumption upwards, or a casino, has a consumption upwards of 1 megawatt to 2 megawatt. And again, you're trying to produce electricity that you're mostly going to consume on site, and you're going to use a rooftop, you're going to use ground mounts, and basically co-locate it wherever that consumption occurs. And then once you get above maybe 5 megawatts, that's kind of where it starts to become less about offsetting consumption locally, but how you can export your electricity to the grid under a power purchase agreement or some sort of wholesale agreement. And so when we looked at these definitions, it's kind of different than the way we look at things. I would like to see kind of an introduction of scale into some of this conversation. So when you define solar farm as something that is about wholesale export, it might be helpful to define it as a solar farm is 10 megawatts or greater that is designed for wholesale exports to the wholesale power market. Or for the community solar, that's the one place where you do have a scale defined. That's 1 kW or 100 kW to 10 megawatts. That's a pretty good definition for community scale solar. And then for the residential or rooftop, like I said, basically below 20 kW is usually what we're looking at for residential. So if you're looking for a way to easily exempt someone, something that would be, the way we look at it is the bigger scale, the more regulation is needed because it's a bigger impact on everyone's life. And so if you're talking about a 200 megawatt solar farm, you definitely want some regulations. You want lots of different eyes looking on that project, making sure it's going to work from various different angles. But if it's just somebody's house, it's a much smaller system, much less impact, maybe needs less regulation. So those are kind of my 30,000 foot view comments of the way that this ordinance was written. And Mitch did reach out to us back in, I think, August of last year. So we did have a chance to look at some of this draft language. And so I've got some line edits on certain things I'd like to just bring to your attention and see what you guys think. But I'll stop there if there are any questions on that spiel.
Yeah, just a quick question, Ryan. On the solar farms, number 4, you had mentioned above 10 megawatts. And in this ordinance, it says greater than 50 megawatts. So what should that be?
Right. So what it's saying there is that if a solar farm is greater than 50 megawatts, then it needs to go to the Public Service Commission. So below 50 megawatts, there's no one that is necessarily going to review it except at the county level or at the local authority having jurisdiction over that particular part of wherever it's built. So I think that's what it means there, is that if it's over 50 megawatts, then Public Service Commission has to get involved.
Okay. just more in your definition, solar farm would be kind of that over 10 megawatts.
Right, and so in the North Dakota market, I would say it's very rare to see a solar farm that's you're going to pitch that's going to cash flow at 10 megawatts.
Okay.
Just because of some of the wholesale rates in North Dakota. We have congested transmission lines. We have very cheap electricity. You're going to need a much bigger scale, like 200 megawatts, to make it cash flow. In other parts of the country, you might have a solar farm that's 10 megawatts where it would cash flow more because they have more need for electricity. There's a better wholesale rate, something like that. But it'd be very rare here in North Dakota to see something that would be that small as a solar farm, quote unquote.
Good to know. Thanks. Any other questions for Ryan before he continues? Seeing none.
All right, going to page 3 of 9 at the very bottom, we have the thing that Commissioner Conley wanted to underline, which is the height of the ground mount should not exceed 10 feet. We feel that's kind of arbitrary number to select, and I'll give you a couple examples. The first would be at United Tribes. There are 2 systems that are ground mounts. One is at a height of 9.9 feet that we built outside of the greenhouse, and the other is at approximately 17 feet that's outside the skill center. And so that ground mount that's 17 feet was designed based on some design constraints that we had to work around. Couldn't put it on the roof because the roof was too old. To make the roof hold the solar, we would had to put a lot of money into redoing the roof. So it made more sense to have large ground mounts outside of the building, and that height got to 17 feet when they're at their highest point. And so,
Can I ask a
sure.
Oh, yes, yeah. Commissioner Connolly.
This is the third time, I believe, that I'm seeing a presentation from your, I think you were at 1 Million Cups as well.
Oh, yes, a long time ago. Good memory.
But I was at the city commission meeting, obviously, and you showed us some of those pictures of the United Tribes.
Right.
They appeared to be on a footer and then lifted, and just above what the edge of the roof was.
Exactly.
Could that be the scale and scope that it would go? Is that if it's not like the standard 10, like you said, arbitrary, could it be something that it would be consistent with, and then the point based on something to the roof?
Right, I mean, that would be for the commission to decide. Where we're looking at it from our perspective is that cost is usually what stops something from getting really tall. The taller you put it up, the more you have to spend to make it structurally sound. And so the ones that United Tribes were, they're 25-foot poles put in the ground 10 feet, so up into the air about 15 feet, and then we have the solar panels on top of them, and they tilt back and forth depending on the season. And so that's basically pretty much as high as they're ever going to get, and that's a very specialized ground mount for very special situations. Most of the time it's going to be more similar to the one we did on the greenhouse there, where it's at a 35-degree tilt, and the very top edge is about 9.9 feet. Now, if we had used bigger panels, it potentially could have been like 11.5 feet. And if we wanted a slightly higher tilt angle, it could have been maybe 12.5 feet. And so as we look into the future, trying to make this law future-proof, I think, if I had to put a number out there, I'd say the chances of anything being over 20 feet are probably 0. Just from a cost standpoint, it's going to be very hard to engineer that and make it structurally sound. There may be a special scenario where you would do that, but for aesthetics perhaps, but for the most part, you're not going to see anything above 20 feet.
And part of the reason why is, since I saw the rendering, and if that's something that you have here so everybody can see it, is that if you're looking at it, anybody driving by even, they're either going to be looking at the edge of a roof or the edge of a solar panel. It kind of blends in to where if all of a sudden it was 5 feet higher than the roof, now you're going to see a lot of contrast, and it almost looks like a separate structure.
Sure.
So the more blend in to where it would be in your line of sight, you think it would make more sense to the average person.
Yeah, from a aesthetic standpoint, I think that is a good argument to make. And I suppose there are height requirements or height limits that you're already in code as far as structures. So you could just kind of have it along the same limitation as any other structure that's permitted in the county.
Thank you.
And I think Jim could get a picture up if you'd like to see what that one looks like.
I've seen it. It'd be up to them.
Go ahead.
All right, moving on. Well, and it's the very next page, and it's about the 10% of total property area or lot size. And so, this is more of a hypothetical. We haven't run into this one yet, but I just want to bring up a couple things for consideration. The first would be, 10% seems okay in certain scenarios, but other scenarios, like if it's a dairy farm or a hog farm or a pheasant farm, where you have lots of consumption in a very small area, you may have some less than great land that you don't have any other use for that you'd like to make productive. And since you have a bunch of consumption of electricity from your hog farm or your dairy farm, you might think, hey, I'll take this unproductive land, I'll put a big solar array, I'll reduce my consumption of my hog farm, it'll cash flow nicely, and it also might be greater than 10% of my total property. And so I think maybe some sort of exemption there, whether it's an increase in the percent or some other way to help farmers maximize the economic potential of their property might be in order. And then the second exemption we'd like to see there would be an agrivoltaic exemption. So agrivoltaics is a way to co-locate solar and agricultural activities. And it's starting to catch on in lots of different parts of the country. You're basically just getting more value out of your land. You're able to use it for multiple things at the same time. Sometimes you can use it for kind of ruminants like sheep or cattle, and it's a good way to make use of pasture land. We can build it in the way that the animals aren't going to ruin the solar, and they do a good job making sure the vegetation is controlled around the solar, so it's a good kind of co-location. And then other crops kind of benefit from some of the increased humidity that occurs around arrays. And so if there was an exemption for agrivoltaics in here, I think that would be in order. There's not too many happening currently in North Dakota, but I think within the next 5 years, we're going to see that start happening a lot. There is a demonstration project in Mandan at USDA around agrivoltaics. They're doing some research on a project. And so that is something that's coming. We'd like to see that thought about in this ordinance as well.
Just a question, what type of exemption would you be thinking of?
Well, so if it was co-located in, let's say it's some sort of ranch area, you'd say shall not cover and encompass more than whatever percent you guys decide to go with, unless it's a agrivoltaic scenario where you're trying to co-locate animals or plants around solar for some sort of synergistic co-location idea.
Oh, okay. So just around the coverage percent.
Right. And agrivoltaics is defined at the beginning here as the dual use of land for combining agricultural with solar energy production, typically with raised co-located solar arrays above agricultural activity. Okay. So we've seen it around beekeeping as well. It's a great place to store your bee hives as well. So, just a little shout out to agrivoltaics would be, I think, appropriate in that spot as well.
Could it be exemptions will be considered on a case-by-case basis for the term that you just
Agrivoltaics,
said?
yeah, agrivoltaics, that
And
would
just leave it at that?
leave it at the discretion of the commission.
Because as we grow into this space, a lot of the vetting goes through application.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
That doesn't always happen with the first swing.
sure, I like that idea. Leave it up to the discretion of the commission. Moving on to the number 4, solar farms. Again, I think I talked a little bit about this earlier. I'd like to see a size definition here, maybe of 10 megawatts. So we're not picking off smaller farms. And then for the at least 10 acres in size, just to give you everyone an idea of how much solar can go on 10 acres, that would be about max 2 megawatts, depending on topography. And then as small as 1 megawatt, you could get into 10 acres. So again, the chances of having a solar farm that's just 1 megawatt that's designed for wholesale export, it would be very rare under our current prices of electricity and wholesale power. Might change within the next 5 years, but as of today, very rare that we'd see something that small.
Well, I think it's I know it's talking about the at least 10 acres. Is that you would want to see?
Well, I think the other issue here that's it's hard to discuss very well because it's kind of complicated, but there are scenarios depending on the territory that you're in for the utility, where if you're above 100 kW, 150 kW AC, you would be under a couple different rates from the wholesale power provider in that territory. And if, let's say, you decide to pick one of those rates, you basically would be forced to export all of your electricity under their buy all, sell all policy. So there could be a scenario where you have a very small solar rate that's 150 kW. Let's say it's on a 2-acre plot of land. And because of the utility, you have to sell it all to them. And then you potentially could say that's export for wholesale. And then it would be on a property that would be less than 10 acres in size.
Okay.
I don't know if it ever would happen that you guys would get involved in that, but it just would be kind of a hypothetical situation.
Okay. Yeah, Commissioners are on.
Chairman, one thing to keep in mind too, when it says property should be at least 10 acres in size, you got to revert back to it can only take, it can only encumber 10% of that. So that'd be, your maximum size on a 10-acre parcel of a solar farm would only be 1 acre. So.
Right, and that confuses me. Just as the developer trying to parse the code, so maybe there'd be a way to make that slightly more intelligible for the common people trying to read this stuff. And kudos to you guys for doing this stuff. It's can be very complicated. And then I have one other thing on page 7 of 9 on the additional standards. And so this is part 8. Section A there. Owners or operators of electric solar energy systems that are connected to the electric distribution or transmission system, either directly or through the existing service of the primary use on the site, shall obtain an interconnection agreement with the electric utility in whose service territory the system is located. Off-grid systems are exempt from this requirement. I've got a couple suggestions there. The first would be to where it's saying either directly or through the existing service of the primary use on the site. I would just remove that and just say when you're connecting in a parallel with the current utility provider. So basically when you connect in parallel, that means you're providing electricity into their system at the same time they're providing electricity into your home or your business. And so you're connected in parallel. And that's when they require interconnect agreement. Greg's from Capital Electric is here. He can explain more of how the interconnection stuff works. But I think that'd be more clear. And then I'd love to see a definition of off-grid at the beginning. So it says off-grid systems are exempt from this requirement, but then no definition of off-grid, just to make that more explicit. Where this could potentially be an issue is, let's say it's a large farm. They've got service to certain outbuildings, but there's one outbuilding way over there. And instead of running service to that building, they just want to put solar and storage on that building because it's cheaper. And so this could be construed to say that they have to have an interconnect application for that far-flung building that's not, is basically isolated from their grid connection. And so we wouldn't want them to have to do interconnect if that's the case. So maybe a definition of off-grid would be in order there. And I think that's the extent of my notes. If you have any questions, I'd love to be of service.
Yeah, any questions for Ryan? Yes, Commissioner Patrick.
I'm just curious, going back to the residential, when you're talking about 1 kW, maybe 2 kW for residential. So let's say that I'm living in the country and I've got 2 acres and I want to put a 2 kW solar panel in. What is the physical dimensions of that?
Great question. So each panel depends on whether it's for residential or for commercial. So residential, we've seen stuff that's as small as 4 by 6 feet. And then for commercial, we're seeing panels that are like 4 by 8 feet and bigger. And so when we do a project proposal, we'll take a look at your roof from an aerial Google view and figure out what can fit on there. And then for residential, we'll have a certain type of panel that will be able to squeeze as many panels onto your roof as possible.
So what would the footprint be? Let's say that it was put on the ground, say in the backyard, which currently wouldn't be permitted. But let's say it would. What would be the footprint?
It would depend on how much production you want. So let's assume you're a typical homeowner, and so it's usually we're looking at systems that are about 10 kW AC, so that's 10,000 watts of power when the sun is shining the most. And for a system like that, you're looking at maybe 15 feet by 25 feet. Jim, you want to correct me on that if I'm off, if I'm spitballing too much? We'll bring up a photo to show you what it would look like. You can fit them in a backyard, depending on how much other things you have there. And we usually don't see too many ground mount residential customers except out of town. So in town, it's almost always going to be rooftop just because there's not enough space. Out of town, you got a little bit more space. You want to make use of some land here. It just makes more sense sometimes.
I asked the question because I was just trying to figure out what it would be like. I'm not really interested, but to see what it would be like, because I'm sitting on 2.2 acres. So we're looking at 130, 140,000 square feet. Because 64,000, a little over 64.5 per acre. So that would take up not a whole lot of that space in the backyard. Plus, this particular backyard that I am in, it's completely enclosed with 25-foot tall evergreen trees. So in that case, nobody would ever see it because it would be behind the house. So I'm just curious about how that would happen if somebody came up and wanted to do that. So I guess I would have a little concern about some of those residential, because I would think possibly some of them, it would be feasible.
In ground mount, right, is what you're saying?
Yeah, so, and out in rural Bismarck, if you go out to those developments, a lot of those developments are 2.2 and minus 2.2, and others are 5 acres, and some even 10. So that's something to consider that we might have to revisit.
Yep. Any other questions for Ryan? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Fingers crossed.
Is it a good movie?
Are we able to see it?
There you go.
Screen shut off.
There we are. Yeah, if we can start with your name, where are you from?
Yep. Jim Cambites from Bismarck, North Dakota here, one of the co-founders of Light Spring Solar. We've done a lot of installs here in North Dakota, and the one that you were just asking about, so this is 10 kW. This is overkill for the average house. My dad has a 5 kW system, for example. It's pretty typical. So this is about double. This is 64 feet wide, and it's 10 feet tall. I think 10 feet, 8 inches. These are helical piles. You just screw them in, you unscrew them right out. And then there's a typical embedment depth in this region, 6.7 feet, 6.7 feet. And you can see just a rough little bit of the specs. But as Ryan was saying, the height limitation doesn't make a lot of sense because it's totally uneconomical to go bigger than this. You're starting to use bigger steel. I mean, these are only a couple inches in diameter, the poles. Once you go bigger, once you go taller, bigger steel, bigger wind loads, it just gets incredibly expensive. So this is a typical commercial install. This is the largest solar farm in North Dakota down south of Cannonball. And these are pile driven as opposed to helical. And if you can get a pile driver that can drive them, they had to rent one from out of state to be able to do it, then it can be a lot more affordable than helical piles. They're more time consuming. But this is another helical pile and most affordable setup, and again, height 10 feet. A different company, APA, and here at United Tribes, you can see the guys assembling it right there. And then this is the larger one that Ryan was mentioning, and those poles are 15 feet above the ground, 10 feet under in a large diameter of concrete with rebar and everything. We had to engineer this and spend an extra 30 grand more than it would have been had we just done a normal system. But we were forced, because the roof didn't have enough integrity to hold the panels, to get it hovering above the roof like this. So we'd never want to do this, because who would spend an extra 30 grand for the same amount of power? But in certain situations, it does make sense. And this is the same rack we used over at the USDA in Mandan, the research center. And this is 14 feet height at the top. So again, we're above the 10. And the intention was agrivoltaics to be able to farm under it. So this is the winter angle at 46 degrees. In the summer, you can turn to 20 degrees for optimal summer performance, or you could go flat so that you can drive a tractor under it and farm under it. So there you can see there's a decent-sized tractor and a 12-foot high-top van. You can see the relative size. So it's designed to be able to tilt flat, farm under it, tilt back down. They've noticed in their studies that there's been a temperature decrease and a moisture retention due to the cooling effect of the panels shading. And so in drought, it helps a lot. In lowering the temperature, it helps a lot. It has a 3 to 4 degree cooling effect on the neighboring region. So it's becoming really popular for a lot of uses. And, they're doing anything from hops to tomatoes to high ones. They're using them as fences. These are bifacial panels, cells on both sides. So are the ones we did in Mandan and at the United Tribes. But really, sky's the limit. You can get really creative. There's one for hops, specifically really tall. The bees and honey production. Another concrete pier. But that gives you just a general sense on what we're looking at.
All right, are there any questions for Jim? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
And the one other comment that I would mention on the limitations here of size, it says a solar farm needs to be at least 10 acres in size on properties at least 10 acres. We could do 2 megawatts on that. What if you would want a 1 megawatt farm? So that limitation is, in certain situations, a 1 megawatt farm does make sense. That would only be 5 acres. So that limitation, it's I'm not sure if that would help, depending on the exact application. But the one that is more, I think, bothersome or I think tricky if you were going to develop is the part 2B, where a ground mount system shall not cover or encompass more than 10% of the total property area or size. So if you were making a 10 megawatt system or a 50 megawatt system, now times that by 5 acres, so you're going to need 250 acres for a 50 megawatt system. But you're going to need 10 times that land around that 250 acres, So that's just a massive amount of land to have a little farm in the middle of. So I could see that being really tricky to be able to get that many land leases or purchase that much land if you're a developer to be able to have a farm on it that's only 10% of that land. You know what I mean? So just my outside observation. Everything else looks really reasonable, and I think you've done a good job here.
Any other questions? Yeah, Commissioner Conley?
In line with that, Burleigh County is similar to, say, like the Cass counties and those type of things versus other areas in the state. Statewide, our population is 4.7 per square mile. But you get into the Cass County or Burleigh County, that's obviously increases a lot. There's a lot of people that are buying the smaller spots, even our newer developments in Summit up on north part of town, to where it's more residential with a country feel to it. and people aren't going to be buying large parcels of land. So that's where some of that discussion might be, is that they're not going to be commercializing it. It would be more for that residential use. I'm just making a blanket statement out there because you're kind of working it in with what you're used to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, in residential,
Because-
it would be great. I didn't know if that was applying to the solar farms.
We have a lot
'Cause
of
it- 'cause it's in-
subdivisions too. That's why I'm mentioning it.
Yeah, and that was unclear because it's under ground mount solar energy systems, like in general, as opposed to if it was under residential, I'd say, yeah, you wouldn't want somebody to buy a house and cover their, more than 10% of their land with solar. That wouldn't make sense at all. But because it seemed general here to ground mounts in general,
Mr. Chair.
So
I was
tying,
thinking
tying
is-
that more to residential.
yeah,
is-
if you
would
tie
be
that
your
to residential,
suggestion.
that would make sense.
Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
yeah, Mitch,
Exactly.
yeah,
Can you hear me?
yes.
The intention of that section is the type of solar system, energy systems. This is for a ground-mounted energy system. It's an accessory use. It's not a primary use. It's an accessory to what they're doing. The idea is that these accessory units, especially for ground-mounted, they can go into any district, not just ag. This section is not designed just for a large production of solar systems. It's 10% of the property is. This is for residential areas or areas that are, it's not your 640 square foot or square acres of a large solar farm.
Yeah, and I think I'm glad you brought that up because what the application that I was thinking of where this would limit is, let's pretend you're making a data center and it's 1 to 5 megawatts. And you'd like to solar power that, so it's an accessory use to a data center, co-locating solar and data, and we've been working on that, and it's very feasible. It's a very good small project, and in an application like that, you would have to purchase so much land in order to have your data center and your small solar farm. It would be really cost prohibitive and really tricky, even to lease that much land. You would have to, if we did a 5 megawatt data center, solar powered data center, that would be 25 acres times 10. Now it's 250 acres, and that's really tricky. It's really hard to do, really cost prohibitive. So I don't see a limit. I don't see why there should be a limit in a special use. It makes more sense for residential in this application.
Okay. Any other questions for Jim? Seeing none, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Greg Owen, Capital Electric Cooperative, Burnt Creek resident. So enjoy all the work that you do. I think I don't have a lot of specific comments on the ordinance. I think the comments that we had at the earlier public hearing have been incorporated well from Capital Electric's standpoint. But I know I've been working with Mitch a little bit, and just wanted to stand for any questions if there were any on interconnection process in general, or anything from the utility perspective. I'd be happy to help. But
Yeah, just a quick one. I guess maybe if you could just take us through, say a resident of the county comes to you, wants to put in some, I forget the term for it, but basically want to offset some cost of electrical. How does that work?
Sure.
I assume the first call is to Capital Electric.
yeah, good question, Chairman Agnew. So I have my binder here. So not every project requires all these pages, but this is kind of the scope of our interconnection processes. So yes, generally the first call comes in and a member wants to talk about what kind of offset can I do here. So we have a team that sort of looks at their usage profiles and has some basic back and forth with that. Once they're kind of interested in it, generally they're working with a firm like a LightSpring. They do a great job. And so then they're kind of putting the pieces together. Okay, what does it cost on my side to do? Once they kind of get past that stage, like, yes, I think I want to do this, then there's an application process. So the member will fill out the application. Here's the size I want to do, all the technical steps, kind of the spec sheets of what equipment's going in. And depending on the size of the application, there's different levels of details that are required. So we talked about with the residential typical scale solar rooftops, usually they're 20 kW or less. That's a fairly straightforward process. Applications go pretty quickly. It's a few pages. Our team then analyzes the information, makes sure it checks the boxes for safety. Well, first of all, are they a member of Capital Electric? You know, we're going to validate things from the very basics and go all the way down. Is the equipment size good enough, high enough to handle it? Do we have to do any upgrades? So when there's those processes meet all the check boxes, it goes pretty quickly, and usually they do. We'll approve the application. Then there's the process for signing the interconnection contract. Again, that's fairly boilerplate information, but that just sets kind of the insurance requirements and different things that we have with the member. And then they'll go out into the construction phase, get it built. They'll let us know, hey, we're ready to test this. Then we have a commissioning process, so we'll meet with the member and or developer on site and go through the basic safety checks. Does it perform as intended? Does it shut down as it's supposed to? Are all the safety labels there, disconnect switch, and all the different technical requirements that we have for interconnections? If that all passes, then we give our certification that it met the standards. And basically then you've got the rate changes, and so you get, as mentioned, if you do offset, if you do overproduce, then you get credit based on that rate schedule. But that's kind of the general process. And that scales with complexity as you get a bigger 1-2 megawatt size application. There's just more to it, but in general, that's the overall process.
Nice. And how many of these are in Burleigh County now?
Yeah, good question.
These type of more residential or light commercial type
Sure.
ones. Yeah.
Sherman Agnew. I guess Capital Electric has somewhere 20 to 30 DERs, we call them, distributed energy resources. Not all solar, but the majority of them are solar energy sources. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Greg? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
If anyone else would like to approach and speak in this public hearing concerning Article 8, Special Uses, Solar Farms, please approach the lectern, introduce yourself, tell us where you're from. Anyone looking to speak in this public hearing? Please approach now. And last call, anyone else looking to speak at this public hearing before we close the public hearing? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and move into discussion and action on Article 8, Special Uses, Solar Farms, addition to the ordinance. Is there any discussion or action? Yes, Commissioner Conley.
On page 5.9, the 10-acre discussion came up a decent amount. Is that if it's 10 acres or less, that would apply, would be restricted to the residential exception only within that 20 kilowatt range. And then you could leave that one alone, I think, because the gentleman answered it all by itself. Every project is specifically and naturally limited by how much property the person owns.
Yes.
As far as what they could do with it.
Yes, and I believe as we talked about earlier, the 10 acres, the at least 10 acres basically says that it is ag zoned. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Oh, yes, Mitch?
This is a 9-page ordinance, but it can't cover every type of solar system that's going to come across our table here. So there is a section that I should have added, and I neglected to, but it's in other proposed draft ordinances. One is the additional conditions or specific allowances to this ordinance may be considered in the review and approval of the SUP. Basically, if somebody has a farm that has, lowlands that they can't use, and we've got a 10-acre parcel that's got half of it not available to use, there should be exceptions to that. If there's a limit to the height of a ground-mounted, if it's in a valley, who cares how high it is? It's not going to affect anybody's vision or glare. So these are things that we can add into this ordinance as a consideration for you guys and then on to the county commission. The idea is, okay, one size, we got to have 10 foot. Well, I forgot to add this in. And so it would cover a lot of ground here for questions that these fellas had and questions that will absolutely come up when we have an application for this stuff. Just to show some flexibility, the consideration, site considerations, that sort of thing. I mean, we're trying to limit the adverse impacts is the whole intent of this ordinance. But it's also to allow some flexibility if it comes across, so.
Commissioner Munson, I believe you had something?
Mitch, say I put a solar system on my home. How does that change the valuation of my home for property taxes?
Good question. For residential, it could. I don't know that
Or
question.
commercial, if I put it up at my shop?
It increases the value of it.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that in commercial industrial areas, the inside of the building, the components of the building is not taxed, it's the building itself.
Okay.
It's like data centers, they have millions of dollars of computers inside them. They are not taxed, it's the structure. And so I'm not sure if a solar panel would diminish tax value or increase it, or I'm not sure. I don't know. It's a good question.
Any other discussion or questions for Mitch? Commissioner Streifel?
I have a question just about whether, I know there was a couple of concerns that we were going to have the state's attorney look at, and I see that, I think it was taken out of the last ordinance, but we're doing 3 ordinances. I'm just wondering, do these get reviewed by a legal team, or do they get approved by state's attorney, or how does that all fit in?
We send them to her. I sent these drafts to her. She reviewed them. I didn't get any comments back, but I mean, we are. I don't know if she has time to even look at it. So it's the idea is that, yeah, we do send it to her for a review, and it's sometimes she comments, sometimes she doesn't. So she doesn't comment, I guess it's okay. But legally, I'm no lawyer, so I can't identify if this is going to be open for litigation in the future. This is a pretty standard ordinance across the board. I mean, I've seen other counties that are similar, and the idea is, I guess, we can't cover everything on this ordinance. We cannot cover all of it, and the idea is I don't want to have 15 ordinances either. I don't think Burleigh County does. So,
And Mitch, just a real quick one. Say it just stays the same as it is. There's no changes. Someone comes and says, "Hey, we've got everything covered here, but it's going to cover 15% of my property." That's likely just something that us as a board, the county commission, can take into account and say, yes, we can give you that exemption and still give you the permit. Is that correct, or how would that work?
well, you'd have to base that on some facts, some data. You'd have to base it on why you're going to allow to go 15% coverage on this lot.
Okay.
it's, and what will the neighbors say? I mean, what will they consider, the impact on your neighbors?
Yeah.
But, or, the removal of agricultural land from production, the glare, the weeds, the noxious weeds, we're gonna hear it all. And so it's kind of like, how does that affect our decision here and the one of the county commission?
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
It's within reason, you can stand behind it and
Okay.
improve it.
Any other questions?
I would ask, maybe I could get a copy of the voltage requirements, or you had a different scale for each category, like 15K for whatever. So if you could get that to me, I think that would help with our definitions.
Mhm.
So.
Any other discussion? Yes, Commissioner Conley.
I would move to approve, and then carry the suggestions to the county commission based on what was discussed here on some of the stuff. And if they want to kick it back to us at that point, it's up to them. I think we've vetted it well.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Agnew, there's no hurry to create this. We don't have anything on the docket. We can bring it back. We can table this public hearing, and I can bring back the corrections to you. There's no rush. I'm myself, I'm kind of tired of looking at it, but,
And I can withdraw the motion. I was just, based on
Right.
comment in previous discussion, no, we want to get this moving, so.
Which,
That's
why I
it's
stated it that
there's
way.
no
Yeah.
second, so, the motion dies is due to lack of second.
Yeah, so-
Is there any further discussion?
So Chairman Agnew,
Yes,
yeah,
Commissioner
no, I know
Zoff.
I made that comment before, but given the literal amount of changes that came out with, I mean, everything from, let's maybe look at some different percentages, some different stuff, to let's add a whole new section in, I think what I'm gonna say, when this does get approved eventually, it's gonna look drastically different than what it does now, and given the amount of requested changes and open discussion and items for consideration and state's attorney review and everything else that goes into this, I will make a motion to table this.
I don't, just 1 second before you do that, I believe we would have to continue the hearing, or can we table a hearing?
To close
In
out the
the past, I
public
don't believe
hearing.
because we already closed the
You
hearing.
closed the public hearing, so,
Yeah, so we
So
can't
we're-
continue, we could just,
no, we're just.
procedurally, how does it work?
We're just gonna
We table we table action on it? Is that?
Yes. We just tabled the item on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Technically,
Well-
you're right. We closed the public hearing.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
So
we
there's no
table the
continuing that,
action.
yes.
We would table,
On,
taking
Right.
any action pending further review and revision, so.
correct.
Okay,
You wouldn't have to call another public hearing either,
No.
since you closed the public hearing already.
okay. I just want to make sure we get the verbiage right in
Yeah.
the motion, so. Yes, so the motion was to,
Table a decision till revisions are made.
made. Okay, there's a motion by Commissioner Zuroff to table the action on this, seconded by Commissioner Patrick.
Mr. Chair.
Is there any discussion? Yes.
So, Mitch, can you repeat the amendments that you're looking at doing to this, based on the public comment we've had, based on the comments we've had here? Or are we just going to, you've got your notes and we'll relook at it in a month?
Chair Agnew, Commissioner Ronson, what I've got out tonight is to define these different sections by their kilowatt levels,
Okay?
and then to have those definitions in each one added to the definitions, to exempt residential rooftop structures, because that would fall into, and then to add add to the last section, probably in the additional standards. Additional conditions or specific allowances to this ordinance may be considered in the review and approval of the SCP.
And Mr. Chair, I asked that since we have the public here for the public hearing. Other items in my mind in here, the height in 4B, right now it says 10. What I saw on the screen was 20. My preference would be to change that to 20. I love the fact that in an agricultural setting, you can move those, you can farm underneath them, animals can be underneath them. There's a lot of advantages to that. And so, again, since we had that comment, I think that is one section I would like to see changed, personally. I do like the idea of a 5 acres per 1 megawatt in 5B, rather than listing it to 10 acres. I would like to see as well the definition of off-grid, as that was requested by the public. Co-located with, and I'm gonna butcher the word, voltaics, there we go. There should be something in there with that as well, so that we have some more continuity in that side of it.
Chair Agnew?
Yes.
The 10-foot is for accessory solar systems.
Okay.
That's where it's limited to 10 foot, because those are allowed in any district.
So just in following that, if it's not,
If it's not in
Then
a,
it's-
it's
then there's
not
no
an
height?
accessory unit,
then there's no height limit?
I don't,
Oh,
I think that
don't
could
believe
fall
it.
under that special use permit space, so you could address it on a case by case. Like Mitch was mentioning, if you have areas of your property that can't be used for other things because where the wetlands lie and things, I think that allows the flexibility with the ordinance to adjust to it. Because, I mean, when the wind turbine discussion came up years ago, 660 feet on top of those hills that go along the highway versus 660 feet in a coulee, it's two sizably different things.
there's no height limit on solar farms, so you could put a height limit on solar farms. 20 feet, 17 feet. I think the largest one they have is 17 feet, the highest one. I think a maximum of 20 feet in solar farms.
Any other items that we'd like to have Mitch bring back in an amended version?
Chair?
Yeah, Commissioner Streifel, yes.
Since Commissioner Munson brought up off-grid, what other definition could it be other than not connected to public or private utilities? What were we looking for there? I forget who brought that up, but was there some other definition that we were wanting to see?
I think it was just a lack of a definition.
There's not a definition
Right.
in the definition section of off-grid.
Yeah, it references
So it's
off-grid, but
literally
it doesn't define
Putting
it,
in
so.
off-grid,
It's
not connected to
Not
the
connected.
system.
Exactly. That's all, but,
Private,
right.
public utilities, okay.
And then there was a conversation on 8A connection in parallel that was brought up.
Right, changing the verbiage to read in parallel with a service provider. Did I get that correct? In parallel with a service provider? So I believe the thought was take out the words either directly or through the existing service of the primary use on the site and replace that with in parallel with a service provider?
provider.
Correct? I think I got that correct.
I think that has all of the notes I wrote down.
Any other discussion, thoughts that we can put into an amended version?
I just had the one where with underlines, and I'll just share that with him
Okay.
afterwards. That's an easy enough.
Great. And Mitch, I would assume we would come back at the March meeting to
Maybe.
take a look at this?
We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
I would hope so.
Any other discussion on tabling this, on tabling the action? If not, we will take us through a roll call vote. Marla?
Okay, I want to make sure I got the motion right. I have table action until suggested revisions are presented to the commission, planning commission. Will that work? Yep. Okay. All right. Yes vote means you approve. No means you do not. Commissioner Zuroff.
Yes.
Commissioner Conley.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Streifel.
Yes.
Commissioner Rich.
Yes.
Commissioner Patrick.
Yes.
And Chairman.
Yes.
All approved.
Okay. We will have the solar farms piece tabled and take a look at it when the revisions come back to us. We'll move into our second public hearing of the evening. That is Article 8, Special Uses Data Centers. And if Mitch, you can take us through some of the details of this, and then we'll open the public hearing.
Yes, Commissioner Chair Agnew. This is to amend Article 8 to allow data centers in our jurisdiction with special use permit. The ordinance starts about the second page in. I'd like to define some of the things that we put in there. We did add some definitions. This is in response to Senate Bill. I've got it over here. Hang on. House Bill 1239. But we'll discuss that in a little bit. So data centers are intensive land uses. They cause an impact because they consume large quantities of water and electricity. Huge. Industrial type buildings that contain HVAC systems to cool the water or for storage systems to prevent the computers from overheating. These systems commonly generate a continuous low-frequency sounds emitted by the data centers. These long wavelengths are not easily absorbed by the air or blocked by a sound barrier. Long-term exposure to noise can impact the health of county residents, and our intention for this ordinance is to minimize the potential off-site impacts of data centers. So, data center is basically a generic term for a large-scale facility that either processes or stores data. Examples are the Dakota carrier network system in Bismarck here. Primarily routes and provides internet services. They have Amazon, Google, and Microsoft have large data centers around the country that store data for work, hosting websites, or personal uses such as saving pictures to the cloud. The facilities in Williston, Jamestown, and Ellendale that you probably have heard about, these their only function is to find cryptocurrency, which is what is House Bill 1239 is all about. So the Ellendale facility, for example, is not just cryptocurrency, but they are building buildings for AI, which is a much more intensive use than a data center. Twice the amount of electricity. They're going to be humming. So what little I know about it, it's those buildings each has a 400,000 gallon diesel tank generators and they have 9 generators for one building. So, and I believe there are 8 buildings there. They use about 835 megawatts of power. They're close to 700,000 square feet. These are large industrial buildings. They're tilt-up panel, concrete panels, slab inside, no windows, very few doors, and a huge amount of fans and a huge amount of computers. So they basically in your definitions, you'll see it beginning on the highlighted ones. Those are the new ones that I had to add from the last time. These highlighted definitions are from the 1239, the House draft bill. So, if you have any questions about our ordinances, it's basically for data centers like Microsoft and these larger areas that are not crypto mining or data mining for cryptocurrency. The House bill, the proposed House bill, allows these data centers, crypto mines in any either the commercial jurisdiction, or residential, as long as it meets those sound ordinances of those districts. So this is for every city, every county, and every township in North Dakota. So that the PSC is pushing this to allow this to happen, and they're going to supersede our zoning ordinances for these. This is for cryptocurrency, so it's different than what I'm talking about in our ordinance here. I added a site plan requirement. We added a landscape buffer of 50 feet from the last discussion. I did add the permit fee cost, which is similar to the solar fee on page 3 of the article. We did get back down to the design centers of the setback of 1/2 mile to all single-family, multifamily dwellings, churches, synagogues, similar religious institutes, and parks, as measured from the property line. The height of these buildings will have to meet the industrial zoning. I did include on Section 7 the sound. We further define the auditory decibel level of the following zoning districts. Agriculture would be 55 during the day and 45 at night. Residential is 55 in the day, 45 at night. Commercial is 60 in the day, 50 at night. Industrial 65 to 60 at night. So it further defines that where we were last time. We discussed that distance from the property line of 1/2 mile instead of from the building, because if they put the building there, then they can move it closer to the property line, and there you go. You're not your 1/2 mile anymore. Let's see, what else did I change? Included stormwater management plan. That's about it. Those are pretty much the sections that you wanted changed from the last discussion. So we do want to have a data center ordinance on our books. We will most likely be superseded by the PSC again for under the Century Code.
Now, Mitch, did you say that the Ellendale unit is, you said 700,000, or it's multiple buildings that?
The whole facility, I think, is 700,000, a little less than 700,000 square feet, the buildings. But there's like 8 or 9 buildings.
Oh, okay.
Not one. I've got the information, I can dig it up, but yeah, this is a very large facility. And they did not have any zoning ordinances, so they just put it down on the ground and started to build. I haven't heard any pushback from Ellendale, the township. I haven't heard any problems. I think the closest person from that building is a 1/2 mile away. It's in the middle of a farm field. So.
Any questions for Mitch? Yes, Commissioner Schaefer.
Mitch, can you help me with that landscape buffer of 50 foot? Can you help me with that sentence? I think it should say from instead of form, but
Oh,
what
yeah.
is the interior of the property line? That doesn't mean like the inside of the property. It means I'm picturing like a black line drawn around the property, and it's from the inside of the black line.
Yeah, you measure interior of the lot line 50 feet, and that's where your buffer lands.
Okay, thank you.
Any
And
other
I will
questions?
change the form to from.
Yep.
Yes. Any other questions for Mitch? Yeah, Commissioner Conley.
When I went through it and things, I didn't see any challenges per se. When I first started, it was our first meeting right out of the gate, being appointed from City of Bismarck. And I mentioned the Williston Data Center, which the news headline came out where basically PSC gave an approval for increasing everybody's electric bill in the area, that $13 to $14 range, because I guess once one of these centers go in, the draw on the grid is so much, the utilities and maybe, well, I guess he left, but they're obligated to provide the energy for them just because to keep the stability there. That got a lot of attention, I'll say, because I got some phone calls. Not all dentist centers are the same, and some of them actually can reduce the citizen expectation. So they're fairly new on the landscape of what's in front of us, and we'll probably learn more about it over time. But hopefully, since it's a special use permit, that'll come up in every discussion, is bring that up. What's going to be the impact to our citizen, both the site itself and what could it potentially be on their electric bills? So it's aired and people kind of know what's being expected, because those surprises are hard when people, the costs of everything are increasing substantially, and even little changes are upsetting the apple cart. And I suspect the two bills in the legislature right now might have an impact, like you said. State rules might supersede, and a couple of the other ones carry some heavy consequences at the local level if they pass.
Obviously. Sound ordinances they're very, very difficult to enforce if you're in a rural setting with no buildings and no trees. I mean, you can hear something 5 miles away one day, and the next day you can't hear anything. And these type ordinances will be looked at after the fact. I mean, I don't even have an auditory decibel meter. I don't have any of that. We follow Century Code right now, and that's what this ordinance is. The Century Code's going to have is that you cannot enforce a higher decibel level than what's required in a residential or commercial zone.
Gotcha.
So how are we going to enforce that? It's going to be up to Burleigh County. We can't call the state, the PSC. It's up to us, and that means we're going to have to. There's a whole host of things, Rod. This is, to me, I'm going to say it's a goofy bill. It calls for a 1 megawatt power to allow a building that has 1 megawatt of power in a residential zone. 1 megawatt of power run a Walmart. They'll energize 1,000 homes. The entire Burleigh County and Mandan, including their refinery up north, is 180 megawatts. So 1 megawatt is, a lot of power there. So we have I hope some of us goes to testify at the hearing for this, but they're going to probably do the same thing they did with this pipeline. Supersede our ordinances and put it in, and that's hard to take for somebody that's got their house right there, and here it is. No choice.
Yeah. Commissioner Patrick, I think you had something.
Well, Commissioner Conley just highlighted, but I was going to highlight that there are several bills in the legislature that are going to address the charge back to the residential customers, because that's what's happening. People are complaining about the electric bills going up to support the power.
Commissioner Patrick, can you speak into the microphone? Sorry. Just so I can't hear you.
That goes to, these customers are concerned about the fees that they're being charged for the power that's being distributed to these types of entities.
So, yes, Commissioner Munson.
And same type of conversation, and Mitch and I were in a committee hearing, a subcommittee hearing, and we heard the opposite with Ellendale. Because of their situation, their actually power rates went down because that system or that facility is close to a wind turbine farm. And it actually is producing more power than they can use. So now that they're not running that power down the line, that facility has actually done the reverse. It has lowered those residents. So, it depends on how the facility is being operated. When we were in the subcommittee meeting, we've all heard about the Williston fiasco. Until that subcommittee meeting, I didn't even know there was one in Ellendale or Jamestown. Or the fact that we had one right here in Bismarck and nobody knew about it. So it really depends on how it's designed, it's built, how it's operated. There's so many different facets that I wish our residents would pay attention to the fact that just because we have one bad apple in Williston, this isn't the same. This can be better. It can be designed different. It can be operated different. And so I'm excited. But what Mitch said, I also think we need to be very careful of. If we pass an ordinance that may be superseded shortly, or do we hold on the ordinance and wait until we see what happens at the state and then make a decision? Mm-hmm. Now, we've also called for a public hearing today, and I know we have people here that want to speak, so it is our job to make sure we hear it, and hopefully this time let's extend the public hearing rather than close it.
Yeah, and I will remind everyone, we are here to discuss the ordinance, which has nothing to do with power use, electric rates, anything like that. So we're here tonight to talk about the ordinance. That includes placement and decibel levels and things like that. Any other questions for Mitch?
I just have a quick
Oh, yeah,
question.
Commissioner Streifel.
What is the setback on the Williston?
I think that's like 200, 300 feet maybe, the pictures that I've seen. There's a residential subdivision to the west of it. So,
Any other questions for Mitch? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Mitch.
yep.
We will open the public hearing on Article 8, Special Uses Data Centers. So if you'd like to speak, please approach the lectern, tell us who you are, where you're from, and sign the roster sheet.
Excuse me.
You can sign
me
the
there.
roster sheet once you're done.
Perfect. All right. I'm a little late to the party. My name is Nick Phillips. I'm with Applied Digital. I'm the EVP of External Affairs. I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Although I have an apartment here in Bismarck, and I seem to be here almost as much as at home. I do represent the company that you spoke about earlier, Mitch and a little bit of you all spoke earlier about. So if it's okay with you, I'd love to give a little background on myself, the company, what we've been up to, correct a few things that were incorrect, just make sure we're talking about accurate information, if that's okay.
And which facility?
So we have two facilities here in North Dakota. The first facility was built in Jamestown, starting in 2021. Well, north of Jamestown, it's Freed Township. Right. It's about 8 miles north. And then the second facility is in Ellendale, North Dakota. And we started the first project there in 2022. So again, I'm Nick Phillips. I'm our EVP of External Affairs. I've been with the company basically since we started. I was the 5th employee. We're publicly traded, listed on NASDAQ. We're a designer, builder, owner, and operator of next generation data centers. We support multiple types of facilities, such as cryptocurrency, as well as artificial intelligence. I've been in the space since about 2005. I built the very first very large cryptocurrency facility in 2017. It was 85 megawatts in a county in rural North Carolina, a county of about 3,000 people. Very first facility, very large facility here in the United States. We came to North Dakota. We were started as a company in March of 2021, but we came to North Dakota in June of 2021 because of the excess energy this year. The state exports a lot of energy. There's more energy by a large percentage in North Dakota that goes to other states, so rates are good. The cold climate is good, and so basically the availability of energy and the cold climate is what attracted us. So we built our first facility in Jamestown starting in September of 2021. It's 100 megawatts there. We spent about $42 million constructing that facility. We employ about 30 people at that facility today. We then built a facility in Ellendale, North Dakota. It is 180 megawatts. That first building, the facility in Jamestown, I'll tell you, is 8 buildings plus an office and a garage and some ancillary buildings. About 65,000 square feet total under roof at that facility. Ellendale is 10 data center buildings plus an office. The office contains the garage and everything else. So 11 buildings on that site. I think it's about 110,000 square feet, 180 megawatts. Between our staff, security, everything, I think we have about 40 employees there. In 2023, we started construction on our AI facility. That is ultimately going to be 3 buildings, could be 4, but most likely 3. The 3 buildings are different. The cryptocurrency facilities look like turkey barns. They're long, skinny buildings. You know, there's no walls on them. Air blows through. It's all air cooled. There is no water usage in those facilities. The AI facility that we're under construction now, and the Ellendale facility, the first one was $82 million. So $40 million and $82 million. The Ellendale facility that we're under construction on now is prefabricated concrete, so it's tilt-up. I think Mitch mentioned that earlier. The first building is 555,000 square feet. It's 3 stories, 73 feet tall or so. And there's some ancillary buildings for backup generation on the site. It's diesel. They're actually 60 units, not 9. They're small, they're contained inside, they're only allowed by the EPA to run 239 hours per year. So they're very small units comparatively. They're 3 megawatts, but comparatively they're relatively small. We have underground diesel storage, to run. We can run about 2 days with the diesel on site. That's 650,000 gallons of diesel or something like that. That's the first building. Our cost on that's about $1.3 billion. Roughly. The other 2 buildings will be a little different. They won't be multi-story. Some of the ancillary buildings that support some of the equipment that's not in the main building will be all together in a single building. So those buildings will be about 900,000 square feet each. So somewhere in the 2.2 million square feet total size. So pretty big. For reference, I think the Bobcat facility I was at earlier today, I think it's 110,000 square feet or something like that. So it's pretty sizable. We fit in Ellendale on about 320 acres that we own there to the west side of town. All in, we'll have about $5 billion in capital in building these buildings. The power, electrical infrastructure, everything that's there to support it. Our customer, single customer, most likely for the entire campus, will probably spend about $15 billion on that facility. So the total campus is about a $20 billion campus. It makes this the largest capital investment in state history by about 2.5 times. And so it's quite a large project. In terms of economic impact, outside of that, we had a study done. We anticipate being about 0.5% of state GDP. Once we're fully operational, we'll have somewhere around 400 North Dakotans working for us between the various different buildings. About $5 billion deployed in our capital, 15 for our customer. Our economic impact study predicted that we have about 14,000 temporary and permanent jobs as a result of our construction activities, post-construction, about 2,500 jobs in state as a result of our project. So pretty large impact. Ellendale, if you're not familiar, town of about 1,100 people. We'll have about 350 or so permanent employees there between us, our customer security, everybody that's at that site. So pretty meaningful to them. We're currently building homes. Of course, there's a housing challenge everywhere. Burleigh County is no different than anywhere else in the country. So we're building 20 single-family homes, a 35-unit apartment building. Our goal is to have enough folks to live in Ellendale that they can service that facility in the case that there's a storm and roads are closed and they can't get there. Some people, of course, will probably live in Aberdeen or Jamestown or Oaks. But if there's a big storm and 281 is closed, we'd like to be able to operate. We have to operate. We can't destroy $15 billion worth of customer equipment because of a storm. There was some talk about power earlier. So in our case, it's been a very good power story. So I'll give you some numbers. In 2023, MDU returned to their ratepayers, all of their ratepayers in North Dakota, not just in Ellendale, all MDU ratepayers in North Dakota, $5.4 million for our activities, not a bunch of activities, specifically our activities, $5.4 million. I think it works out to $6 or $7 per customer or something like that. It's not a huge number. You heard the other story. I think it's been $20 or something like that. In 2024, it's not quite done yet, but MDU is estimating $14 million, so about $70 to customers is being returned as a direct result of our 180 megawatt project that's running. We have approval from the PSC for up to 530 megawatts at that campus at this time. MDU is predicting that'll be about $200 per customer. I don't know the exact number, but it's like 50 million or something. So it's a pretty big return to customers as a result of our project. We're required to pay for any infrastructure improvements. Substations. We're building a very large substation on our site. We do that at our expense. Ratepayers don't have to cover that. The PSC is good at protecting them. From if we weren't there anymore and then MDU built a bunch of stuff that would fall on the ratepayers. So we protect ratepayers from that. We're very much integrated into the community. We mentioned the housing. We don't want to be in the housing business. We found a developer who's owning these homes. We find it unlikely that someone who's never lived in Ellendale and never worked for us would come just build a home or buy a house on day one. So we wanted to see some rentals there. So between us, the state, and the city, we were able to come up with a program to attract a developer to build those homes and the apartments there. We've done free family movie nights. There's not a movie theater in Ellendale, so we've done free family movie nights for the whole community. We've done art programs for the kids, for Christmas, for Halloween, for various things like that. We participate in county fairs. We donate to all sorts of things, advertise all over the place. And a very interesting thing that came out is I'm a little competitive. So I called the bowling alley owner one day and said, hey, I want to challenge the larger employers in town to a competition. We'll make a trophy. It'll be a lot of fun. He said, please don't do that. Our pin setter's from 1956. It breaks all the time. That'll be a bad situation for everybody. And so we offered to help. What came out of that is he didn't want to apply for grants because he didn't want to take government money to work on his private business. He decided to go borrow $200,000 through the PACE program that the Bank of North Dakota has. He borrowed the money. He did a new pin setter. It's a technological marvel in terms of what they have there now. And then 6 of us in town advertising the bowling alley, and that's covering the cost of that loan that he took out. And I tell you all this because we try to be very involved in the community. We have some internal rules for ourselves when we're siting. The closest neighbor to us is about 0.57, so a little more than a half mile away from us. That's not a requirement. That's something that we do. We've built walls. We've done all sorts of things to encourage or to prevent us from having a negative impact on our neighbors. That's maybe not the business choice that everybody makes, but that's the choice that we've made. And I think we've been doing this quite successfully in both of our locations. I'm going to stop there. I have lots of pictures, things I can show you guys. I have a lot of thoughts on the ordinance. Love to walk through it, if that's okay, but I'll stop here for questions.
Are there any questions before Nick moves on? Yes, Commissioner Conley, and then
Not so much a question, and I've been up at the Capitol quite a bit, and some of the people that would be more critical have gone and visited, and it was positive. So I'll say that from the get-go.
I appreciate it. We've definitely had a few folks who thought they were going to hate what we've done show up and change their minds, so that's been nice.
Yeah, Commissioner Streifel, go ahead.
Did you mention where the AI facility is being built?
Yeah, so there's actually two. I neglected to mention the second one. So the large AI facility is Ellendale, North Dakota. It'll end up being 3 buildings at about $5 billion. There's another much smaller one that we built in Jamestown for about $40 million. It's about 7.5 megawatts. And just to kind of give you some ideas on power, Mitch said a different number than I'm going to say now. He may be right and I may be wrong, but I understand that all of Burleigh County is 100 megawatts. So our one facility on 40 acres, 65,000 square feet or so is 100 megawatts in Jamestown. So it is quite a large amount of energy. I think that we end up, unless there's more generation built, which I think there will be, we end up consuming almost 10% of the state's power, us as a company.
Any other questions for Nick? Yeah, Commissioner Conley.
And maybe you have more accurate numbers. Some of the people that reached out to me because they were a little frustrated, they said that by far we produce more on a per capita basis of energy that we can't use ourselves. Like you said, it's attractive here, and our climate is, I mean, this is coming with or without people. So there's ways to where let's work towards the advantage that it can be versus some of those other more difficult if everybody's in an advantage. But that's basically it, is they just said, we produce a lot more, it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers offhand, but I think if I remember correctly, it's something like 6 times more energy. That's not just electricity, that's fuels, that are extracted as well. But I think 6 times more energy is produced than the state consumes, something like that. I could probably get you exact numbers if you're interested. And you brought up advantages. I should probably talk about some of the advantages of North Dakota a little bit. But there's some disadvantages, and I think that it's good for you to understand that as well. So I could kind of start with that before I go into this.
Yeah, go ahead. You have the floor.
So advantages, energy, obviously that's what initially attracted us. The cold weather also. There's a misunderstanding about water usage for data centers. So there's some data centers choose to evaporate millions of gallons of water for their cooling per day. Lots and lots of evaporative cooling. We don't do that. So we, at our Ellendale facility, we have a 10-gallon per minute water hookup. It's the same as what you have at your homes. And maybe some homes have even more. But what we have is 10 gallons per minute, and our predicted water consumption over the course of a year is about 2/3 of one house, average house in North Dakota. So it's very, very low water usage. And the reason for that very, very low water usage is the climate. We don't have to, it's not so hot. It's not Phoenix, it's not Dallas, Texas, it's not some of these hotter climates, so we don't have to evaporate lots of water. We don't think it's the right thing to do. And frankly, if we evaporated, millions of gallons of water per day, I think farmers with pitchforks would be at our door, and it would be a bad situation. So we don't do that. That not having to evaporate water is a huge benefit. There's also a large cost benefit on the electricity side. Our facility, coldest hour of the coldest day, will run the first building. There's 3 buildings coming, but the first building will run about 105 megawatts, coldest hour of the coldest day, so 100 megawatts of computers and things inside of there, and then about 5 megawatts of air moving and cool liquid moving, around the facility, pumps and whatnot. Hottest hour of the hottest day, we'll see about 130 megawatts, and that's from chillers that are running that are, mechanically cooling the water. It's a closed loop system, so it's the same water. It goes in very cold, 62 degrees, gets warmed up to 90, 95, comes back out, goes through a radiator like on your car with fans on it, comes back in, goes into the chiller, and then it just goes in a circle. So no water there. So huge advantage to cold. That's a lot. That's millions of dollars per year in savings on electricity and water as well. On the downside for North Dakota, there's a few challenges. The first one I'll lay out may be surprising. North Dakota has an excellent fiber system in the state. It's really quite excellent. It's maybe the best in the country. There's about 100 homes in the whole state, is my understanding, that don't have access to high-speed fiber internet. Most states can't say that. I don't think really any can. The reality of that system, though, is there's approximately 6 strands of fiber that are shared amongst the entirety of the state. The backbone of the internet, getting out. There's 6 strands of fiber, and our customers require, depending on which customer it is and what they require between 5 and 864 dedicated strands of fiber. North Dakota does not have the fiber backbone, doesn't have the fiber inside of the state in order to support a customer. So we've got millions of dollars of infrastructure built for fiber to be able to support those customers. So that's a challenge because that's very expensive. It's very time consuming to be able to work with rights of way issues and so on and so forth. So that's a disadvantage. Also, the speed of light is a limiting factor in how far those strands of fiber can go. So they have to put little stations that amplify that fiber. So those become complicated over a long distance. And a data center customer of ours will need to communicate with their next closest facilities surrounding. So that fiber doesn't just go to the edge of North Dakota. It needs to make its way all the way to Omaha or Minneapolis or Cheyenne or Seattle or Denver. Very, very long distances. So we end up with very complex, very costly, situations for bringing fiber in. And that physical distance, it's called latency. So customers want low latency between facilities, and light can only go so fast. So there's a challenge with that. There's not other large data center facilities here. Now ours coming in, at least for that customer, will enable them to be able to have other facilities potentially in North Dakota with low latency between ours and those other facilities, so that's good. The other challenge is workforce. North Dakota, as you all know, has a very, very low unemployment rate. So between a very low unemployment rate and there's not a big data center market here, there's not employees with data center experience that can just be hired and brought into operated facilities such as ours. So we look to retrain folks from other industries to come in. So on the cryptocurrency side has been really very exciting, personally to me, because we've taken folks with little to no computer experience, 4th generation North Dakotan farmers, folks who were the night shift manager at a Walmart, and other types of roles that really are non-technical that joined us at our entry-level position, which is called operator, and they've trained up to other roles in our business. 2 of our facility managers, both Jamestown as well as Ellendale, are folks that started as operators in our facility. So they went from, in the case of Ellendale, Chad, he was the night shift manager at a Walmart. He went from that to now being in charge of a $500 million facility for us in about 18 months. So really short time period. We've got other folks that have trained into network engineer positions. We've got a master electrician on site, so we've been able to have some folks, come in as apprentice electricians and earn licensure and things through the process. So that's been very interesting. We've also been able to take folks who have oil and gas experience, and they're moving liquids, right? So we have liquids to move, we have heat to move. So that's been exciting to be able to take. Frankly, most of our workforce is North Dakotans, but they've been retrained, from other things. That won't be the case as we get to that 400 employee number. We're recruiting folks. We're spending a lot of money to recruit folks to come here. So workforce is a huge challenge. And then accessibility for somewhere like Ellendale. You can't just get parts in 2 hours or 3 hours. You can't get specialized labor there. So if something breaks and it's the winter and there's a storm and we must restore, services within an hour or 2, they're not flying in from Minneapolis or Chicago or Phoenix or somewhere. We have to do it on site. And so that's very challenging and something that scares customers. Overall, we love North Dakota. It's been excellent for us. The regulatory environment has been great. Workers have been amazing. I was floored in 21 for my first winter being up here that folks were getting stuff done in the minus 30 degree wind chill sort of a situation that I found myself in. But it's been really excellent, and we've been really explaining that to potential customers for quite some time, and it has been challenging. So that's all that. I can jump into the language if you're interested.
Yeah, just a couple of quick questions. What decibel level do you have around your Jamestown and Ellendale facilities?
That's a really good question. So we recently did 2 recordings for 1 week each. So in Ellendale, and somebody mentioned, maybe Mitch mentioned earlier, the change in noise. So I've gotten to know the farmers who are near us. And so one day I'm driving down a dirt road, and one of them flags me down and says, "Hey, Nick, do you turn your facility on and off?" Or why do you turn your facility on and off? It doesn't make any sense. And I said, "No, we don't do that." Why are you asking that? And he's like, "Well, sometimes I hear your facility very clearly, and other times I don't hear it at all. So I had assumed you were turning it off." And so the answer to that question is, depending on which way the wind blows, the sound will be entirely different. So internally, our rule is a half mile from us to the nearest residence. So at a half mile, if the wind is blowing, so if the residence is to the south and the wind is blowing south to north, you can't hear our facility. There's no reading of it, none, 0. If the wind is blowing the other direction, you can hear our facility. If there's no wind and it's a summer day and there's crickets chirping and road noise and all of that, there's no way you can hear our facility at that half mile. If it's a cold winter day and there's no birds chirping, there's no crickets, there's no road noise, and the wind is not blowing or it's blowing the wrong direction, you can hear us. The decibel level is very challenging to measure because it's picking up all ambient noise. What we did is we did a recording over the summer, and one of the challenges that you'll find is that different days, different weeks, different months, different years will have different levels of ambient noise because of what rain has happened, what insects exist, or construction's going on, or whatever. But so we did a 1 week recording. I believe we ended up at 48 decibels was the average all noise. So some of that was us, some of it was just cars and whatever's going on. It changes day, night, everything else. We weren't satisfied with that number. And so we built at our expense almost $1 million wall, I think $800,000 or so, wall surrounding that cryptocurrency facility. And then we did another recording, and we saw a 3 decibel reduction from that wall. And sound is weird. I'm not a sound engineer, but I understand that 3 decibels is something like a 3 times reduction in the overall volume. So it's meaningful. To kind of give you some context, when I first heard about the noise question, I drove over late at night. Unfortunately, woke up a dog. But late at night, I drove over to try to listen where there's not road noise. The road noise, eliminates it. So I drove over late at night with the car windows up and a calm day with no breeze or anything going on. Can't hear it. Impossible. I mean, for me, maybe my kids could hear it, but I certainly couldn't.
This is the
hear it.
Ellendale facility. Correct?
This was the Jamestown facility.
The Jamestown.
Actually, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
The Ellendale
Jamestown.
facility is where we did the recording.
Okay.
Could not hear it at all. With the windows down, it was just barely there. But these are car windows. They're not double paned, to give you sort of an idea. And even when the wind is howling in the wrong direction, I'm not raising my voice to talk to the person near me, to talk over the noise. This is like rustling leaves sort of, level of volume before the wall was there. And then after the wall, depending on where you are on our facility, if you're in the hot side of the buildings, it's like 92 decibels inside of the building. So you're wearing ear protection. It's very hot. It's 30 degrees hotter in the hot side than it is on whatever the ambient temperature is. So if it's 90 out, it's 120 in there. So we have safety protocols, for somebody has to be out of the hot watching them, sort of thing. But always ear protection, eye protection. So at a close point to the wall that I mentioned, to the building, about 100 feet where I was, It's not 92 decibels at that 100 feet, but it's close. Standing on the one side of the wall, when I walked 10 feet behind the wall, sound was gone, entirely gone from the wall. And these are walls that are used for oil and fracking and things like that. They're kind of like a squishy sort of a surface that are, I don't know, 18 feet or 20 feet tall or something like that. So that's kind of what we found. It is challenging because how do you isolate that noise frequency from all other noises? But we did see a 3 decibel reduction from one time to the other. The challenge, though, is we're talking about fall versus winter with those 2 recordings. So we'll continue to do some recordings from time to time.
It's good to put a number on it.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yes, B.
So when you're sitting in your car with your windows up, how close are you to the facility?
When I did that, I was about a half mile.
So what would be the noise? Have you tested what the noise level is a half mile from the fence?
That's what we did the recording at that he was asking about.
Is the 48?
Yes. I may be misremembering the 48, but I believe it was 48 and then down to 45 with the wall.
With the
yes.
wall.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. I could also provide some reports if you guys are interested.
Oh, that's all right. If you want to go into the ordinance.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, yes, Commissioner Rich.
Yeah. Thank you, Nick. What an excellent presentation. Thanks for all you're doing. I'm just a little bit interested in the property taxes these facilities pay. Do you pay on just the land or the building or somewhat on the value of this very expensive equipment inside, or what's the situation there?
Thank you very much for reminding me that I forgot to talk about property tax. So the property taxes are based off of certain components of the buildings, the land value, and whatnot. It excludes a lot of the equipment. So on our building, the first building that's the farthest along in Allendale, we have about a $1.3 billion total capital investment there. I don't remember the exact valuation that we landed on, but I think it's something like 150 or 200 million of that becomes property taxable. We just did that economic impact study I mentioned before. We weren't a taxpayer in North Dakota before September of 2021. We're anticipating next year, so 2026, that we'll be a top 10 property taxpayer in the entire state, by far the largest in the county. What's very interesting from my view on that is if you look at the top 10 property taxpayers in the state, the youngest one of those companies is One Oak. I think they've been here 20, 25 years, something like that. The rest of the large property taxpayers in the state have been here for maybe a century or since statehood. And so inside of about 5, maybe 6 years, we'll go from not a property taxpayer to a top property taxpayer in the entire state. So we're anticipating somewhere in the 2.5 million, range from this first one, next year. So it's pretty sizable. And we also just requested to be annexed by the city. So that drastically increased our property taxes. We think it's the right thing to do in this case. The city has a total tax revenue annually of about $1 million per year. We're asking a lot of people to move there. They don't have the infrastructure to support, 100 or 200 more people. So we thought it made sense for us to contribute financially to the city, and taxes made the most sense. So we came in and asked to be annexed. And that actually just became official today. So.
Oh, thank you, Nick.
Yep.
I believe you said you had some comments on the ordinance?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Okay. So there's a lot. I hate to say it this way. There's a lot of challenges with this bill, and frankly, this ordinance. This ordinance is effectively a moratorium on data centers in the county, and I'll explain why I say that, and kind of walk you through the challenges. In the beginning here, there's some definitions. I don't personally see a reason why you as a commission would care whether it's a cryptocurrency facility or AI or traditional data center. I think that really what it's about is 3 things. Any large construction project, data centers included, in North Dakota or really anywhere are going to have three impacts on neighbors: traffic, especially during construction, light, and noise. Those are the impacts. And my view is that the entirety of what you should be looking at is mitigating those impacts from negatively impacting the neighbors, the people who are already there, and preventing them from enjoying, their own use of their own property. So to me, whether it's blockchain or it's AI or it's just a traditional data center, I don't think that's fully relevant. But I would like to point out that based on my reading and understanding of the definition of data center, as it's done here today, congratulations, you're all sitting in a data center right now. This is a data center. A coffee shop would be a data center. A restaurant would be a data center. Every hospital in the state would be a data center. So this definition is very troublesome. We could talk about that at length, but that's a problem. When we continue down, that's just definitions there. When we continue down through the language, there's a landscape buffer of 50 feet. My first thought on this was that's not really offensive. The challenge here is security. We're a very high security environment. It's very important to us that people can't get in there. We're talking about $15 billion of equipment. And depending on what this looks like, it could create environments for folks to maybe hide and ambush people or, conceal that they've broken through a fence or something. I certainly appreciate the idea that we want to limit light, or just buildings that are ugly concrete structures or something. But just the way that is, I don't know that necessarily works. When I work through the application requirements, I'll cover some of these very quickly and just say many of these are fine. We're asking for applicant names and contact information, a description of the proposed project. That all makes sense. A description of how the project meets market demand feels irrelevant. And the reason I say that is if somebody wants to start a restaurant or a bar or a law firm or a CPA's firm or anything, frankly, it's none of the county's business whether there's demand for what they're doing or not. And it's up to them to risk their capital and their time. And if there's no demand, that's their problem, frankly. When we go into a study prepared by an acoustical engineer, this is also challenging because you can go to a manufacturer and say, hey, what's the noise of this device under certain conditions, and they'll give you some information. But I can tell you, it's not right. It's kind of interesting, but then when you're actually there in the field, it's a very different situation. That first facility that I mentioned that I built in rural North Carolina, we found that if you've got a miner, a Bitcoin mining device, and you, Mitch, I think, or somebody was talking about a bill in the house. When you have a single device with its fan, you don't want to sit next to it. It's kind of loud and annoying, but it's not horrible. When you add lots of these together at the same time, it changes the makeup of the noise and how it works. And in our case, we're building these facilities that are so large that they don't know what it really looks like. They have ideas, but they don't know. The manufacturer doesn't know. So until it's there, it's a little bit challenging. I'm going to come back to part of that a little bit. The site plan, I'm going to skip over for a moment.
Yes, Commissioner Connolly, yes.
When you mentioned the descriptions in the first part not completely lining up, but then on the first page where it says a description of the proposed project, do you think that would be enough to encapsulate some of the nuances that the different descriptions would be in the beginning on a case-by-case basis since it's special use?
So I think a description is reasonable. We should tell you, hey, we're building a facility. We anticipate this kind of equipment. It roughly will sort of look like this. In our case, we've more or less worked to standardize our design. So this is what this building will look like, whether it's built here or it's built somewhere else. There's some changes, but more or less a general description's okay. The challenge is technology changes quite quickly, so depending on the level of detail of what's in there, that could be challenging. And since you bring it up about the description, right below it talks about site plans and things like that. And the challenge here is that in order for us to attract a customer, we have to do several things. So a customer that would look at us, they're called hyperscalers. There's about 5 on the planet. There's not a lot of companies that can place $15 billion of equipment in a single site. They have a lot of questions, like 700 questions. And you have to answer all of the questions the way that they want them answered. And if you miss anything along the way, you're just out. It's gone. Like you don't get the project. Right now, it's a little different because there's a lot of demand for facilities, and so we've seen a little bit more leniency on those 700 questions. But for us to go attract a customer, we have to show up with a few things. One, we have to show up with proof that we have power. So we have to have gone to the utility and can show them that we have power. We have to have reliability studies about that power. We have to have land acquired or at least under contract or something, and we have to be able to show that it's a legal use of that land, that we can go there. They want to understand all sorts of ordinances, emergency services, labor. I mean, this is an exhaustive process that could take months or maybe a year. We've been in some of these for over a year.
So essentially, we could eliminate those descriptions and pick it up in the site plan and a description of, and it'd be case by case under the special use permit.
Yes, however, for us to complete the full site plan and what the facility will ultimately look like is a very large expense. So this could be an expense, depending on the size of the facility. We build large facilities. The smallest facility we build is 200 megawatts. That's kind of our limit. A 10 megawatt facility would look different, but still on a 10 megawatt facility, we're probably talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars to get to a site plan. For us, we're talking about millions of dollars to get to a real site plan with all of the information that's laid out here. So the challenge is, if we have to show that we can have power, we can be legal to operate there, and we can do all of these things in order to get here, we can't tell our potential customer we are legal to do this because we can't get a conditional use permit or special use permit. I forget what it was called in this case, because we can't spend, say, $5 million developing those plans to get that permit because we don't have a customer, and we can't get the customer without the permits. And so effectively, you've gotten rid of us being able to be in Burleigh County, because who's going to spend $5 million to build plans that won't be applicable to somewhere else? It doesn't really work. So to me, my solution to that is say, that you could say, here's a conditional permit that you will then provide these things. I'll talk about the noise in a second, but say, hey, this is legal so long as you fit within a certain criteria. Your noise cannot be over a certain decibel level at the limit of your property, for example. I think the limit of the property is the right place, not a half mile away. And the reason I say that, I think, Commissioner Patrick, you mentioned if somebody built something right next to your house, or something like that. If I can build a facility next to your house that has 0 decibels, what do you care? It shouldn't really matter. I don't think I can. I don't think anybody can today. But if I could, I don't think it's relevant. So the limit of the edge of my property, I think, is the right place to say what the decibel limit is, and let us engineer to that. And if I have to buy 5,000 acres of land and place my building in the middle of it because I can't engineer the right decibel level at the limit, that's my problem and my capital. If I can buy 50 acres of land and fit the same thing in there and meet that requirement of noise at the limit of my property, then I think I've met, the negative impact on the neighbors. But all of this I can't do until I've got a customer. Can't spend $5 million. It's effectively stopping it from happening. Nobody's spending very large amounts of money on engineering to answer questions before they have the customer. So if there was some sort of, this is conditional on meeting these requirements, now we have to prove to you that we can meet the requirements with engineering and other things. And if we don't meet the requirements, there should be a process where we can be fined or shut down or somehow impacted negatively for not complying.
So a lot of this goes through the PSC or the state regulatory arm, is that correct?
Sort of.
The 700 questions or whatnot?
No, none of the questions go to the PSC. That's us answering for our customers. So the PSC has regulatory authority over the investor-owned utilities, not the co-ops. So we may find ourselves in front of the PSC for 3 or 4 different reasons. So one could be a CPCN, a Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity. That's used for 2 purposes. One would be a Territorial Integrity Act issue, if you're familiar with TIA from the 1967. Basically what happens there is the investor-owned utilities operate within the cities. I think maybe here Capital Electric is a little different, but generally speaking, the territory of the co-op of the investor-owned utilities is the city, and the territory of the co-ops is the rural environments. In both of our facilities, we are in co-op territories, but we are served by an investor-owned utility. In order for that to happen, they needed to get a CPCN. So they had to get permission from the PSC for that to happen. That involved monetary compensation to the co-ops. They're happy with the arrangement, and that's what that was. Another reason we might find ourselves, really the utility finds themselves in front of the PSC, not us. We participate, but the reason they find themselves in front of the utility is if they need to build infrastructure, they might need to build a substation or generation or transmission lines or something like that. The PSC, frankly, in North Dakota is excellent. We've been very happy with the process and how it works here. It's been very good. They want to make sure that other ratepayers aren't going to bear the cost of that infrastructure being built for that large consumer. And so they want to see from the utility that they've come up with some sort of an arrangement. In our case, it's pretty much always we write a check up front, we pay for all of it. So that's how that works. But they don't want you paying for us, building a data center effectively. The other reason why a facility like ours might end up in front of the PSC is rates. So I think maybe all of our cases, special rates were acquired and approved by the PSC for us to be able to get different rates. And the way that was built created the benefits to MDU ratepayers that I mentioned earlier, the $5.4 million in 23 and $14 million estimated in 2024. But that needed a special rate, a tariff rate to be able to make that work. On the co-op side, they won't find themselves in front of the PSC as it stands today at all. They work through their own process. So there's the co-op. They would then go to Basin. Basin would work with SPP, et cetera. There's a whole different, process there, but none of that process involves the PSC.
Thank you.
Yep. The 700 questions is very tough, but that's between really us and the customer.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes.
All the way to 700, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Please keep going through the ordinance. Thanks.
So the acoustical engineer, we talked a bit about that. Digital site plan, hard for us to do up front. Better if you can say, hey, don't harm people these ways, whatever that is. And then we can make sure we don't. At the bottom of the second page, I really like this, actually. We do this internally. We actually go beyond a 1 mile. But this, I think, is very important. We internally do this. This is part of our due diligence. I think that another facility that you all mentioned earlier today did not do this, and they're 300 feet away from a residential community, is my understanding. I haven't been there. But I think this is very important. I think that them making sure that a potential data center has looked at who the neighbors are and how they may negatively impact them is critical. Folks should be doing this. We do it. I think you're right to tell folks to do this and show you that they've done so. I really like that one. I'm a little confused on F in that if, say, one of our chillers breaks and we go to replace it or upgrade it, technology changes all of the time, why we need to come back and get a whole new permit for that. I don't think that makes sense to me, but that's just my thought. Data centers may only be permitted in I industrial district with a special use permit. Frankly, there's the House bill, I forget the number that was mentioned earlier, that talks about defining a data center in a residential area for cryptocurrency mining not being able to be prohibited by you. I think that may nullify this if that passes. I think that if someone has 10 cryptocurrency miners in their basement, that you all shouldn't really care about that. Neighbors aren't going to be impacted by that. But if someone put 1,000 of them down there, that would be a different situation. So on the solar thing you were talking about, maybe some limits, and maybe you have a limit in here, I don't recall, but maybe some limits on what that looks like. It must be industrial if it's over some number, 10 megawatts, 1 megawatt. There's not 10 megawatts in a residential area. Anyway, there's probably not one in a residential area anyway without millions of dollars of electrical improvements. H, the fees. H, I think, will subject the county to litigation as I believe that it violates the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. To give you, an example here, our $5 billion project, 0.001 times that is $5 million. I think that would be considered a taking under Amendment 5 of the U.S. Constitution, and wouldn't be constitutional. That $5 million would far exceed the amount of money it would cost you to review these plans. So I think that it really needs to be structured in a different way that doesn't violate the U.S. Constitution. Personally, I'm not a lawyer, but that's what I've been told, and that's what I understand. So I think that needs different. The financial security piece, I frankly, I don't really understand any of that. That's tying up capital. If we build a thing and we fail as a business, that's our problem. Just like whether there's demand or not, I think that's really our problem. If we were to build I'll use Ellendale for example, the first building, it's a 380,000 square foot concrete building. There's a lot of value in that building, whether it's a data center or it becomes storage or something else. Why should that have to be torn down and put back to dirt, ag land? I think that there's still value in the assets that we would be placing in such a facility. It would be a shame to cause us to tear them down or have some sort of a financial security to put it back. I don't think putting it back is the right answer. Same for the irrevocable letter of credit. People just have to tie up tons of cash to get those. You can't just get that. We're a very large business. We, comparatively, we certainly have the largest facilities in the state, almost maybe in the country. So even for us, it's difficult to just show up with letters of credit. We're publicly traded. We can't just say, here's a $5 billion letter of credit. We'd have to put $5 billion in the bank and then say, here's our deposit that you can take, the letter of credit can take effectively. So that's quite challenging. The setback, a half mile, to single, multifamily, et cetera. I talked about that at length earlier. I think really what you need to be doing is focus on the noise. More than anything, I think it's the noise that drive people nuts. And if you say to us, hey, at the edge of your property, decibels must be less than this number, I think that's the right way to deal with that. Height, I'm unsure of what your requirements for height are. I can tell you we're 73 feet tall on our tallest building at the facility. I don't think we'll build another 73-foot tall building, I hope, ever again. We did that because we designed that building to be able to house the world's fastest supercomputer. And in order to do that, we had to put 4 data center halls right on top of each other, 2 on each floor, because light's not fast enough to get, horizontally. It's wild, but that's the design consideration. So we built this quite tall building. I could understand why you'd want to have restrictions on height, but I question if industrial should be the same or not. Electrical wiring, you know, I don't know if it should all be underground or not. That's a design thing that we look to do most of it underground. It's a better risk factor for us. Our cryptocurrency facilities are not buried underground. That's a cost consideration there. I wish they were buried underground. And I think if we were to build another one, which I don't think we will, of that type, that they would be underground. But I'm not sure why, especially if it's an industrial area, why that matters. I do agree that a written verification from the utility service provider makes sense. We would have to provide that to our potential customer anyway, so it makes sense that you guys would want to see that. Fencing, secured chain link or solid wood masonry fence at least 6 feet in high. We build fences that you can't drive a truck through to keep folks out. It's a risk, a safety risk, and others. So we agree with fencing, but I think maybe make sure we can fit security fences that we need inside of there. The buffering I talked about earlier and screening poses a security risk to our staff, potentially. So I think that needs looked at. I did see the noise inside of here. Challenge that you'll have, that we would have, that anyone would have, is figuring out what's the noise from our facility. It's very difficult to limit it just to our noise. So, you know, if there's something nearby at night making more than 45 decibels of noise, I don't know how you would attribute it to us or to that. That becomes quite challenging. I think that we can talk about that a lot more. Roads. I'm going to stop here for a moment and say there's a few issues. I don't want to keep going on this. So there's a few issues that I think you should understand. One, obviously, the legislative session's going on, and there's certainly going to be some bills passed that will impact data centers in the state of North Dakota. We're working in support of some. We're not in support of some others. So doing anything during the legislative session, I think, is not the right choice. The other thing that I'll say is that there's been a lot of interest in data centers, not just in Burleigh County. As you know, there's been some moratoriums in some other counties. And even where we are, we just were annexed officially today by the city of Allendale. They don't have an industrial zoning. So they're going to build an industrial zoning, and they've given us a variance for 180 days. And the reason 180 days is that we've been speaking with the League of Cities and the Association of Counties for some time now. And our intent is to get a model ordinance pulled together with them. And it will take language from around the country that's working in data center, rich environments that's been working for maybe years there, but then also take our experience of the last 4 years in North Dakota, which is not the same as Virginia or Texas or Arizona or anywhere else you might go in the country, and say, hey, this is how we think that it should be done in North Dakota. And we expect that the League of Cities and the Association of Counties, plus Dickey County, the City of Allendale, hopefully you all, Stutzman County, and hopefully some others around the state who've done some things, moratoriums. Hopefully they'll all collaborate and come up with a really good model ordinance. And I think that model ordinance would be great, because then you could take that sort of a language and say, hey, we want to adjust this thing because that'll fit better for Burleigh County or that item, and not take the full burden of figuring this out and the research to all 50 states, frankly, and larger jurisdictions to understand what should work or what doesn't work. And folks like us and another large data center operator, I think, will participate in that process. So my suggestion to you all, obviously this is just my comment period, is maybe wait 6 months before you do anything with this, and hopefully participate post-legislative session in what the League of Cities and the Association of Counties is doing to come up with a really positive outcome. I talked a lot, so
Any questions for Nick?
Are we at $6.99 now, or?
probably. I've been doing presentations such as this for 4 years now. I'm happy to. I have photos, videos, all sorts of things. Happy to share with you all. You can look at our social media. There's a bunch of things there. If you're interested in tours, feel free to let me know. Happy to facilitate tours. So yeah, I'm definitely available. Sorry, I'm late to the party. We don't currently have an active project, that we're chasing inside of Burleigh County. But we have been watching on the periphery of, kind of what's going on, and today felt like a good time to come share some information with you all.
There is one rumored to be coming to Burleigh County, separate company, but.
I'm sorry, say again?
There is one rumored to be.
But not us. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was just going to be my question. Okay. Any other questions for Nick?
Okay, very good.
Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Nathan Schneider. I'm the Vice President for the Bismarck-Mandan Chamber EDC. We are the economic development service provider for Burleigh County, for you all, as well as Morton County and the city of Bismarck and the city of Mandan. I do want to express our appreciation in looking at an ordinance like this. I know this isn't an easy process. I will say that it gives companies that we work with a little bit of certainty and a little bit of clarity on the type of projects that they can put into an area. I do want to say a project like Applied Digital and what's happening out in Ellendale is a really exciting project for economic developers like myself. When he talks about things like the top 10, getting within the top 10 taxpayers in the state of North Dakota, I think that helps our community. Those are things that economic developers across the state are truly trying to chase. The only thing that would be more exciting about a project like that if it was located in Burleigh County, and I truly think that. I would ask on behalf of the Chamber EDC that we look at tabling this, just in light of some of the things that Nick brought up with legislative bills that are coming through the process, and the work that the Association of Counties, League of Cities, and others are doing to draft ordinance. We have conversations and have had conversations over, I would say, the last year with multiple entities looking at doing data centers in Burleigh and Morton counties. Applied Digital is not one of them, and so I really want to thank Nick for coming. Applied Digital doesn't have any skin in the game, right? They probably don't care a whole lot if Burleigh County implements this ordinance or not. It's out of the precedent that it sets that they're coming here to ask for a table. We have these conversations with data centers, like I mentioned, coming to this market, and I have to be upfront with them and tell them, Burleigh County is in the process of considering an ordinance. They have a draft ordinance. Morton County is, as you all know or probably know, has a moratorium on data centers. And so when I show them, I'll show them the draft ordinance, and I'll say, this is the draft ordinance that's being proposed. I have gotten feedback from some of the users that are looking at Burleigh County that look at it and say there are a number of non-starters in here for us. And Nick touched on a few of them. There are others. Some of them have been changed since the previous drafts that have been proposed. But still some concerns that they have. Completely understand that you all are looking out for the best interest of the county, right? And I live on the edge of the Bismarck city limits. Quarter of a mile away from my property is Burleigh County limits, right? I wouldn't want a facility like what's been talked about up in Williston. I wouldn't want that in my backyard either. But there are good players in this state. Applied Digital is one of them. They're on I would say the exact opposite spectrum of the facility out in Williston. The things that they're doing for the community and in terms of just economic impact to the state and to that community are really unprecedented, quite honestly, with the size and scale of this project. And so I would just ask that you would consider tabling this, like the solar farm, to look at some of the changes that Nick talked about, and look at maybe that model ordinance that's being proposed by Association of Counties, League of Cities, and other partners. I try to be real brief with that, but if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, any questions for Nathan? Yeah.
No questions. I was going to follow up with Nathan's comment, and I would move to table this until July.
Second.
I don't think that was a motion, and we're still in public hearing, but
I want to
you want to
move
continue?
to
full
continue
on?
the public
Well, Chairman, I
Yes.
have comment on that.
Yes.
I'll be honest with you, with all the discussion and everything, do I think there needs to be an ordinance? Yeah. Applied Digital, obviously, like, they're the Costco, the Target, they're like the high-end brand, right? They have their own internal processes that probably are gonna far exceed any rules that any of us could really put together, right? What we need to be concerned about are the Dollar General companies of the world that want to roll in fast and dirty and slap stuff up, and Cousin Eddie's managing it, right? Those are the people that I'm going to say need the ordinances. These companies probably, there might be some inconveniences, but at the end of the day, they're going to probably be working to abide by, because the golden egg at the end of it all is worth it for them to work through that. I'll be honest with you, my thought is, and this isn't a motion, but to close out the public hearing, and I would, at the end of that, make a motion to completely deny this ordinance. Completely slapping Mitch in the face, I understand that, but knowing that we have Matt and Aaron with League of Cities and Association of Counties working on a much higher level to get what I'm going to say more of a template ordinance put together for everybody, knowing that, the county does work with the Association of Counties very closely with a lot of this type of stuff. I think whatever we would end up with would look drastically different than what we have right now. And I would hate to table it, and that is my thought of denying it, is I would hate to table it and have Mitch continue to go through the process of repolishing. Let's move in, revamp, drop the issue. We'll bring it back in 6 months or 12 months, something like that. Let the state figure out at the state level what they're going to figure out with that stuff, so we can, that will all be incorporated with a template, this, that, and the other. So I'll get off my soapbox. I digress. That's my 2 cents, but that to me is what makes sense.
Let me just bring this back for a second. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in this public hearing? We do have a motion on the table to continue this public hearing, made by Commissioner Munson. It was seconded by Commissioner Connolly. So the motion, that is the motion and the second. The public hearing is still open, so please approach the lectern. Let us know who you are, where are you from.
Thank you. I'm Ryan Warner from Bismarck, North Dakota, co-founder of Light Spring Solar here in Bismarck, and also leader of a Bismarck blockchain group, kind of a meeting group of interested people in cryptocurrency and blockchain. I know it's late. I appreciate everyone's comments. It's been a great conversation. I just want to be real brief with a couple general comments. I think the first thing to understand, and we got to it at the end here, is that this is an emerging industry with not too much data or experience or history to draw on, so it becomes a huge challenge for any regulatory body to come up with something to regulate it. So you guys are taking on a huge project that's very complicated. My sympathies are with you, because this is really complicated to do it the right way. At the same time, I want to give Mitch a shout out, because the noise considerations for data centers are huge for people. It's quality of life. We're talking about an ongoing noise that could be a health concern. It could be a concern for your animals. It could be a concern for your plants, your trees. Noise pollution is huge from a health concern and quality of life. So as a commission, you guys have to take a look at that, because that can be really bad if you don't do it the right way. So I think this is super important. and good luck. With that, I have a couple comments. Like Nick was saying, the definitions I think need some work. Whether it's data center, cryptocurrency, or AI conversion facility, it's all data at the end of the day. And so it doesn't make sense to draw out these differences within the ordinance. Like you said, it's about light, noise, and traffic and how that impacts the community. And so if we restructured things around that idea, that would be great. When Mitch was talking, he said the intent was to kind of regulate large data centers, which I think is a great intent, but I don't see that spelled out within the definitions of anything in here. So much like the previous ordinance, I think defining things by scale makes a lot of sense. A 200, 300 megawatt data center is going to have some much more stringent regulatory hurdles to go across, other than as opposed to like a 1 megawatt data center. And so as a part of our work, we do develop smaller data centers. So we're looking at things in the 1 megawatt range where we can self-consume what we produce with solar with our data center. And so for those smaller ones, I don't know if they need to meet some of the other noise and acoustic concerns as the larger ones do. So I would encourage, again, a scale definition that if we're going to define something, define by scale, because that helps you guys do what you got to do, which is limit light, noise, and traffic pollution. And then going into the chilling effect this would have if passed on data center developers, I think that's totally true. This would have a chilling effect on any development. I think two things are problematic beyond the chilling effect, which you may or may not think is the right move. The first would be the acoustic standards that we're trying to engineer to. I think we need a lot of work, and hopefully the model legislation or model ordinances that come out within the next 6 to 12 months will help define this. But defining what those limits of noise are is it's difficult. It's a difficult engineering question, and like you said, weather conditions and seasonal conditions can impact how you perceive sound. And it's all about public safety, so we want to make sure we get that right, both on the design side, so before it's built, and then the as-built certification, so you come back later and say, did they do what they said they were going to do? That's going to be super important. So to get that right and to figure out who's the acoustical engineer that's going to write that or help review that, I think that's going to be huge. And then the decommissioning plan, I think, is problematic. Much like Nick said, it doesn't make too much sense from a resource standpoint to build a big building or a big facility and then require a bunch of money to tear it down later. It can be remodeled, reused. I think that's kind of the ethic of most development, is that we're going to do something great for now, and then we're going to build it in a way that if we have to change lanes or change gears later in the future, we can just remodel this and reuse it. And so that's smart development, that's smart use of resources. Having money set aside to take everything back to ground zero, so to speak, I don't think that makes much public policy in many instances, other than pristine lands or mining or stuff like that. So with that, I'm gonna pause, take any questions, and then say goodnight.
Okay. Any questions for Ryan? Seeing none. Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay. Seeing no one else approach, we do have a motion on the floor to continue this public hearing, and a motion and a second. So is there any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Munson.
Mitch, what would be your preference? Continue the public hearing or close it and wait for the Association of Counties and the League of Cities to come back with their model?
Yeah, I don't know when this model ordinance is going to come in place. Model ordinance are typically used by counties or townships that don't have nothing. Ellendale had nothing when they want their stuff built.
Right.
And so I don't know who's going to write it. I mean, this is a pretty, I've looked at other jurisdictions. This is pretty standard stuff. Montreal County, Williams County. A lot of these counties are doing their own ordinances. SRF is assisting them with that. I don't know what, we don't even know what this model ordinance is gonna look like.
Right.
This has basically development standards for the industry. To require a site plan is pretty standard.
Yeah.
This board will recommend approval of this project, of any of these projects. How can you approve that without being informed of what's being built? The location of it, the distance of it. I mean, these are development standards for just about anybody who wants to build a building. Stormwater management plan, platting, roads. You gotta know this stuff before you start to build. You gotta know it before you come to a permit for, because you guys are gonna stand behind that permit. If you don't have the information in front of you, how can you make an informed decision? And it's these development standards across the board. You wanna build a house? You wanna build a little house, you have to do this. It's kind of a, to question everything in this ordinance is kind of, to me, is a little bit over the top, because it's standard development practice. And if somebody fails at their business, like say Sam Bankman-Fried, he fails at this business, at this square foot, this huge industrial shaped, industrial sized building, what are you gonna do with it? You guys are stuck with it, because you issued the permit. That's what, Burleigh County's that issue with. And so we're trying, bottom line, we're trying to protect the interests of Burleigh County and the people who live here. I don't have anything against data centers. I'm not an expert at it, I don't have anything against it. All I know is what I see from other ordinances and from talking to other jurisdictions. And so, we can table it. I would suggest, I think, to table it until we set up a moratorium on data centers, period. Until we find what we want to do.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would agree with that. I think that we could follow our sister city's lead and declare a moratorium, and maybe we should write that up instead.
Is there any further discussion?
Chairman,
motion?
moratorium wouldn't be
Commissioners are off.
moratorium wouldn't have been this board. That would be commissions.
Right. And that'd be Burleigh County
That's
Commission.
that's not anything of this board. That's the commission.
They're set by resolution by the county commission.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion to continue this hearing?
Casey.
Yes, Casey.
Sorry, I think there was just one accidental, maybe misunderstanding on the site plan.
Yeah.
We're not.
Casey, if you could just introduce yourself.
Casey with Burleigh County Highway Department, sorry.
Thanks.
I don't think anybody's asking for a $5 million engineered setup plan. It's more, okay, you know the rough size of your building, what's the outline, where's the property, where are you looking at parking, what roads are you looking at impacting, property lines, are you utility easements. You're looking at more of the general setup. And hey, if you're gonna have some lights in your parking lot, totally understand. You want a security fence, great. I totally understand why you need that. It's not a full magnitude architect plan that's from the floor 4 feet thick on there that anybody's asking for on that. It's more the general idea. I think when I heard $5 million plan, I was like, boy, I'd love to get $5 million for doing the plan we typically end up reviewing, because we're not asking for that level. It's more the review type level, and if it's approved, then we're getting into the more detailed stuff after they have actual secured financing and you're actually into the process more. The upfront stuff's more of a general idea. Does this work? Does it not work?
Casey, is there, just a question, is there maybe a better terminology that we could use that would maybe call that out I'll just put my term on it, a light duty plan?
It might be just called a pre-application site plan, where you sit down and just kind of go through the general ideas on there, so you have that knowledge. That it's pretty common. We have many pre-application meetings before plats are done, before site plans are done, just so we can kind of go, this is what we're looking at. We can hear what the developer's looking at. We can kind of go, here's the good things, here's some challenges. Let's just try and get it figured out before you you, the developer, have to put in a ton of money doing this, because we don't want you wasting money on fruitless endeavors.
Right, okay. Any other questions for Casey? Thanks, Casey.
Yep, thank you.
Hi again. I'll be really short. That's kind of what I was pointing out in, it would be nice to have something where it's conditioned on, hey, we're okay with doing a rough. Here's kind of what it looks like. It'll probably change over time, but to answer some of the questions in the language there, it does require those types of details. So coming up with a general site layout, we think the building would be here and parking would be here, lights would be there, et cetera. That's no issue for us. We have to do that to describe it to a customer or anybody. Anyway, just some of the detailed questions we've got 700 miles of copper in that one building, that first building in Ellendale. We have hundreds of pieces of mechanical equipment that all make noise, and understanding how that noise kind of goes on top of itself to answer those noise questions, that takes real engineering. And $5 million is, for a $5 billion project, that's probably very reasonable. So something light makes a lot of sense for us.
Okay. All right, thank you. Yes, commissioners are off.
Spent 15 years doing site plans. Right, Wayne?
Yep.
Everything that is laid out in this ordinance as requirements for site plans is, I'm gonna say, pretty much copy and pasted out of the industrial zoning stuff, okay? It's very, very cut and dry. I'll tell you, to show where existing structures are on site, proposed structures are on site, screening, fencing, lighting, electrical connections, property lines. And when they say electrical connections, that's where's the service box? Where's the substation gonna be located, right? I mean, they're not asking for literally the detailed electrical engine. This is what's typically considered a civil site plan. Casey's reviewed probably 30 of them that I've put through in my previous career. So, no, honestly, I don't see much of any. Yeah, right there, chief. There's nothing in here that isn't above and beyond, and Nick, if you want to hire me for $5 million, I will give you unlimited iterations of any site, okay? Say that very facetiously for the record, but not farming out work here for crying out loud, but just kind of making a point of no, on the site plan thing, none of these requirements are what I'm gonna say above and beyond. Their plans for their architects and their electrical engineers and their mechanical engineers and their HVAC guys and all that stuff is way above and beyond what the county pretty much, I'd say 99.9% of the time ever asks to see, so.
Yeah, if the electrical connection's a concern, maybe it could be take it out or define it better. It's more, where's your main power coming into the site?
Correct.
That's all. I really do not want to review where every wire's at in a building. I'd much rather do more productive things than that.
This is a civil site review. It's not a building.
Correct.
Architectural.
It's not an
review.
architectural review.
Okay. Okay. Any other discussion? So I guess just my thought is that if we continue, okay, that's one thing. I'm on board with the more erring on the side of having something rather than nothing. So throwing this out, I don't necessarily agree with that. Whether we continue this until, I don't know if it's the next month or whatever, continuing it for 6 months seems awfully long. Trying to bank on something that might happen in the future is I don't know. It doesn't quite feel right to me. That it seems like we should have something rather than nothing, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't want to get into a point where all of a sudden we do have a bad player come in and we have nothing in the works to say that, well, you have to have it this way, that way, and the other. That could happen in 6 months. So I'm more on board with if we're going to continue this hearing, let's continue it until maybe next month we can make some iterative changes and pass this. If we pass an ordinance, there's nothing saying we can't change it in the future, is what I get at. So if we find that, oh, the League of Cities came up with this whiz-bang thing, and boy, that's really, how we ought to go, well then, maybe we need to relook at it and change it in the future. So that's my 2 cents of figuring out, like, and I don't know if it's this or something, but I think we should have something sooner than later. Go ahead,
If I can.
Commissioner Munson, yes.
July was was the date picked, I think we need to, at minimum, wait till the legislature's done, so we know what is being passed for ordinances or for bills. So, if we want to pick April instead of June or July, I'm fine with that, but there's no reason for us to look at this next month if we don't know what's done at the Capitol.
They're still gonna be fighting.
So that's where part of my extension was. It would also give me an opportunity to get a hold of the League of Cities and Association of Counties. They're not gonna have an answer until session's done, when they start working on it, but at least to have the initial conversation of, Art, what is your time frame for working on this as well? So I think those 2 questions need to be answered. So July was a date just picked. Could we look at it every month between now and then? Absolutely. But
Commissioner Connolly.
Well, because we ended up a lot in the weeds, pretty deep into it, whether we keep it tabled or another form of a motion, there'll be 2 county commission meetings before we meet again. Can you take it back, have that discussion between all 5? Maybe they have direction for us. Is that allowed in the format?
I think anything's allowed to be talked about, absolutely. That would be a question for the commission, I'm not gonna answer for them, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't get it on this next meeting, but I could certainly ask on the following,
Okay.
And in that time period, I could, at that point, at least talk to the Association of Counties, figure out where they're at. We can watch this House bill, see what happens there too, but crossover is in,
It's February 28th,
Yeah.
soon, resumes the
Soon,
following
yeah.
Wednesday.
so we would know if it made it to the
Yeah.
crossover side of it.
All right, any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Rich.
Yeah, I raised my hand, but I don't think anybody sees it. But anyway, clearly, the legislature might do something. We might get this model legislation, all this, that, and the other. But I still think we can continue to polish this up. I think Nick made some recommendations, pretty good recommendations on how we can make some improvements to it, get it polished up, and talk about it again at a future zoning commission meeting. So that'd be my recommendation. If you're going to continue the open meeting, or should we just table it, Commissioner?
The public hearing is still open, so we are still in the public hearing.
Sure.
Okay, question has been called. We will take a vote on the previous question. And voting on previous question means that if you think we should move into a vote on the motion, you say aye, and if you think we need more discussion, nay.
Is the motion concerning July, or?
We're now voting on previous questions. So the previous question would be, like I say, if you would like to just move into a vote on the motion, you can accept or vote for previous question. If you want more discussion, vote against it. So
Or would it be easier if we withdrew and revisited?
We've got the question called, so we'll go into that. All in favor of previous question, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition to previous question? Okay, we'll move into a vote on the motion. If you can restate the motion for Marla.
So I would move to
Continue.
continue the public hearing until July is what I had said.
Second.
Okay. Got it. If you could take us through a roll call vote, Marla?
Okay. The motion is to continue the public hearing until July? Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. I want to make sure I have it right. Okay. Commissioner Zuroff?
No.
Commissioner Streifel?
No.
Commissioner Conley?
No.
Commissioner Munson?
Yes.
Commissioner Patrick?
Yes.
Commissioner Rich?
Yes.
And Chairman, you're the tiebreaker?
No.
Two. Yep. 4 no votes, 3 yes. So the motion did not pass.
Okay. So we will not be continuing this public hearing. We are still in the public hearing. Does anyone like to speak in this public hearing before we close the hearing? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and move into discussion and action on Article 8, Special Uses Data Centers. Is there any discussion or action that we would like to take?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd say that there are 8 other jurisdictions that are counties that are working on these data center ordinances. The North Dakota Planners Association has talked about this. We have had roundtable discussions on it, and I could see where they're at on their development. On some of them, a lot of them are close to being finished, and it's, you know, get a consensus from that group instead of waiting for a model ordinance from League of Cities. Because these are counties, these are people who are in the trenches with this thing, so they know what they're, you know, they have SRS of a consulting firm for some of them, and, you know, we're all part of this association, so I could look into that and see if we could find close to the one than what everybody else is looking at or considering. And in the meantime, I would say we recommend that moratorium on data centers, on any application of data centers.
Is there any further discussion or action?
Chairman?
Yes.
I'd make a motion to table this item until after the state legislative session is complete, and Mitch has had some time to gather further data from his respective associations.
Okay. Marla, we you catch that, or would you like a restate?
I just put down a motion to table this item until we hear from the legislation.
Until state legislation is convened.
State legislation is convened.
Okay. Motion was made by Commissioner Zuroff. It was seconded by Commissioner Patrick.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can we include a moratorium?
He did.
No,
You mentioned
he didn't
moratorium.
mention
No.
Okay.
I don't think moratorium is, personally, I don't think a moratorium is a purview of the planning and zoning. That is a county commission.
Or a recommendation?
Oh, yeah, I'm not going to recommend that either.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Any further discussion on the motion to table? Okay, seeing none. Marla, if you could take us through a roll call vote.
Okay. A yes vote means you approve the motion. No vote means you do not. Commissioner Rich?
Yes.
Commissioner Patrick?
Yes.
Commissioner Munson?
Yes.
Commissioner Streifel?
Yes.
Commissioner Conley?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm trying to figure out who I'm missing here.
Just chair, I think.
Chair.
Yes.
There's more.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Approved. Motion approved.
Okay. Motion is approved. The action on the data center is tabled until legislature has convened. We'll move on to our next hearing for the evening. This is Article 8, Special Uses Accessory Dwelling Units. So Mitch, if you could take us through the details on this, and then we'll open the public hearing.
Right, thank you, Commissioners. This is to amend Article 8 to allow accessory dwelling units, better known as ADUs, These type units are a separate and complete dwelling unit established in conjunction with an ancillary to the principal single-family dwelling, whether within the same structure as a principal dwelling or within a detached accessory structure on the same lot or parcel. An accessory dwelling unit contains one bedroom, a kitchen and bathroom facilities, and a separate exterior entrance. So from the last hearing, the highlighted sections of this are some of the changes that were suggested. Not many. So I think that just to open the discussion on this, you have the accessory to the effect or the impact evaluates of the ADU is on the page after the ordinance. So we did look at all the possible impacts to neighbors. We require a detailed site plan, has to be occupied by the owner, allowable zones, approval process, minimum setbacks from occupied residences, public assembly areas, the minimum maximum square footage, off-street parking required, termination of SUP, privacy requirements, utility connections. Basically, that's it in a nutshell. It's fairly simple. It's straightforward. We want to allow these in residential areas. It was asked by Commissioner Rich about why can't somebody build a second house? And well, it's typically one parcel, one house. And same thing on a farm. He asked about a farm. For farm workers, you can have temporary housing for farm workers. That's under a separate special use permit. So the idea is we don't want to have multiple structures, multiple homes on one lot. That's would be going against our ordinances. If you want a new house on there, then you have to separate parcel and plat it. That's the process. These are designed to have for your relatives, in-laws, grandkids, whoever need to live there. It's not designed to, we did discuss earlier at earlier commission meeting of whether it allow these to be rented out, and that was declined. We don't want to turn these into rental properties. There is a maximum square footage. It depends on the size lot. The floor area of an accessory dwelling unit may not exceed 40% of the principal structure. Any attached garage may not be greater than 900 square feet or less than 300 square feet. Units within this accessory structure, this is an accessory dwelling unit, may not be greater than 900 square feet or 300 at any lot on a lot parcel of 5 acres or an area or less. The square footage of an accessory dwelling may be up to 1,500 square foot on lots or parcels that are greater than 5 acres. So there's a difference there. Bigger lot, bigger ADU. We did include in that packet a non-conversion agreement. Should be in the back here. It's after the types of ADU. I don't know if you saw the section on the types of ADUs. Describes what the ordinance is basically saying. The last page has a non-conversion agreement that the owner will sign and will be recorded against the title to maintain it as what the ordinance requires.
All right, are there any questions for Mitch?
I've got some questions.
Yes, Commissioner Rich.
Okay, one of the big issues we're facing in the city of Bismarck and Burleigh County is affordable housing. And I think this is really a good opportunity to address it in one small way, to allow these ADUs, AUDs, or whatever they are. But I think what's proposed here is we should loosen up some of the restrictions a bit so they'd be more usable. For example, you have to be an owner, occupier, or a close relative. What's the difference? If I have a close friend that's got into some trouble or got in financial straits, why couldn't I allow him to stay in there? Another thing is not allowing them to rent it out. You might have somebody that certainly needs the income. They build it for their mother-in-law, the mother-in-law dies, and they need the additional income. Why not allow them to rent it out? The other thing I have a problem with is the one bedroom. If you have a large enough lot, you could build a 1,500 square foot structure, which would probably cost you $200,000 or more, and you only limited to one bedroom. Why not allow? Why do we even dictate how many bedrooms there are? And the last thing I've got is off-street parking. I don't know. You know, that just adds cost to these things. Can't we allow them to park on the street like a lot of other residents do? So I've just got some basic concerns that we're making it too restrictive when we have a dire need for affordable housing in Bismarck and in Burleigh County.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Rich. Any other comments or questions for Mitch? Oh, yes, Commissioner Streifel.
I actually would agree with everything Commissioner Rich said. And I was wondering, Mitch, if you had the chance to ask the state's attorney about that paragraph on the non-conversion agreement.
Which paragraph?
Upon notice to the owner of the property, county staff shall be authorized to enter the property for the purpose of inspecting the interior and exterior of the accessory structure to verify code compliance. At the last
Basically, you're asking the owners.
At the last meeting, both myself and Commissioner Bittner had asked for the state's attorney's opinion on this.
I sent it to her.
Okay.
I believe the question was about authorization or entering just upon notice rather than having permission, right? I believe it was something about that.
Yes, I felt like it was a violation of your Fourth Amendment. I think that there needs to be permission given prior to entry.
I answered that with you. You talk to the people, you send them a letter, we like to come in and verify that you're still residents of this property, that you're not renting it out or whatever. I mean, it's gotta, once you notice the owner and they notice you're there, you're authorized to go in. You're saying you still need permission or
Yeah, that's not
search warrant?
how it's written, though.
Well, that's the way I read it. Okay, I'll have to wordsmith it a little bit.
I would like to see permission by the owner of the property before count.
Yeah.
We're not
But-
gonna knock the door down. I mean,
Well, it just says, upon notice to the owner of the property, county staff shall be authorized to enter. I know, Mitch, that you probably won't knock the door down, but maybe the guy after you will.
Let's hope not.
I just think this needs some work, and I thought we were gonna.
That's gonna be Marla's job.
I will rewrite that part.
Thank you.
Okay.
In
Go ahead.
response to Commissioner Rich, we tried to do for affordable housing. You may recall the Stonegate subdivision with lots that went down to 12,000 square feet on a communal septic system with shared driveways. It didn't get past the first hearing. So the idea is that we're not a city, it's a county. And it's, housing sells for what it demands. I mean, we're gonna pay what it's done for. If we had apartment complexes somewhere, then probably, but it's kinda, we don't have allowable housing, or we don't consider allowable housing in the county because it's, the minimum lot size is 2 acres.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
and they are mobile homes, that sort of thing, but, these, I don't know how you can do affordable housing when you start with a lot that's cost you $100,000.
Commissioner Streifel.
Just for example, on the one-bedroom restriction, let's just say my mom comes to live in a home that I built that meets the rest of these requirements, and she wants to have a caretaker or a guest. I just don't see any reason why there shouldn't be 2 bedrooms allowed. It just seems like if you're going to have this extra building for something that might be, that would meet a need of a family, for instance, a ailing family member or just someone who's down on their luck and needs to live there. If they had a guest stay over, there's no place for them to stay.
Good question. I don't have an answer for that. I think it's designed not to be a second residence, not
Right.
to be a second single-family home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Commissioner Zerl.
Chairman, no, I think a lot of the, what I'm gonna say, bedroom restriction, off-street parking restrictions, that type of stuff, a lot of that comes from like sewer usage, that type of thing, from city ordinance type verbiage, okay? City ordinance requires off-street parking for single-family residences. It does. That is why your driveway has to be a minimum of 25 feet long, right? Same thing goes with a lot of like sewer counts and that type of stuff. Those quantities, they're not based off of bathrooms or fixture units. They're actually based off of bedrooms, because that's the count for that. Kind of provides at least a rough estimate for a count of how many people can occupy that. So that's kind of where I think those come in. Now, we're talking the county. The county does not maintain sewer systems. That's on the private residence. I don't think necessarily having a bedroom restriction is prudent, but having proof, evidence, application for either a second septic system or a septic system modification, or proof that the septic system on site is adequately sized for, okay, that's a different story. So, just my 2 cents. Not that anybody asked.
Yes. Any other, oh, yeah, Commissioner Conley.
Well, I can speak to the reality of it because these are the settings that I work in and things. As far as the caregivers are and where we're going into homes and those type, I have, in 15 years, I've never had a separate room as a location. Usually it's a couch or something like that, something nearby, so you can have access to the person that might be getting up in those type of areas. If a lot of people, I'm okay with there not being a room restriction, so to speak. If people can afford to build that extra amount, it benefits valuation-wise. But I haven't run into it, even with people with a lot of resources, to where there's been extra accommodations for the caregiver themselves. So,
I wasn't talking about a typical
yeah.
care like you're referring to. I was talking about if my mom is living in this home and wants my sister to come take care of her, I don't want my sister staying in my house.
Are we bringing in personal experiences here? All right. Any other questions for Mitch before we open the public hearing?
Well, John
Yes.
Risch here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm still wondering why it has to be a family member rather than, you might have a close friend that you need to help out. I mean, I don't get that. And why can't you rent it out if that person died or your mother-in-law died or whatever? It's just going to stay vacant?
Commissioner,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Risch. The idea is that these are special use permits, and they're a consideration of everybody who gets that public notice hearing, notice of the public hearing. Off-street parking is required, because I can guarantee you the first thing you're going to ask is where you're going to park all these cars. And you're not parking in the street next to my property, that sort of thing. So the idea is this is a limited allowance. It's to allow your mother-in-law, your father, to move in your house. Now your best friend. If your best friend, he could live in your house. Why would you build an accessory dwelling for your best friend? The idea is it's helping people out, but it's not allowing this expansion of this special use permit. It's It's designed to, for affordable housing to have these people come and help, like a mother to come live with their family.
I agree with you, Mitch, but it just seems to be too restrictive to me. I don't know why, we as a government entity want to be so restrictive on people.
I don't, excuse me, I don't. Excuse me. The idea is that we are recommending a special use permit so that it is in the middle of this neighborhood that could affect everybody. And are we going to start allowing rental properties on these, in the county, on these single-family lots? I don't think that would go over very well. So that's what I mean, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. I wish we could be more flexible. I suggested renting them at the first hearing, you may recall.
Well,
But
I'll tell you, if I had somebody that wanted to rent a room in my house, it wouldn't be prohibited.
Probably not. I don't know.
Commissioners are off, yes.
So, aside from that, the one question I do have, so are you going to carry mobile DNA kits with you to prove relation? How do you
swab?
Aside from the smart aleck remark, how do you prove? Because I take, and where does it end? Because I take my wife's cousin who he doesn't have the same last name that I have, nor does he share the same last name of my wife's maiden last name, right? But it's still my wife's cousin. So do you limit it to immediate first blood relatives only? Well, okay, let's start defining that okay, well, it's my stepbrother, but we've grown up together since we were 3 years old. He's my brother. Sorry, that's my brother, he's adopted. Or that's my adopted father. Or how do you start drawing that line at relation? How do you stop, and that honestly, because I don't ask it because I necessarily care all that much if somebody's renting a room out to their best friend or if it's put in place for their mother-in-law. It's more so, if we have this on the books, how are you going to be able to enforce it?
Well, Commissioner Chair, Commissioner Zuroff, some of these ordinances are generic, okay?
Yep.
And they're generic for a reason. We don't want to go around with a little police car with a little light on top and stopping and look at people's accessory dwelling to see if it was the actual mother-in-law or somebody else.
You don't want to be mouth swabbing people for DNA?
Yep. And so the idea is that if there is a problem, if it comes to where you got too many cars there, all of a sudden, well, there's like 5 kids living in this thing. They're all college kids, college age. Then you can look at it and say, well, we're back to our ordinance here. We're back to the originality of this permit. I mean, the same thing goes back to this agritourism thing. We're not running around the county looking for problems. But if there is a problem, then we have something to go back on.
Right.
All right. I think let's jump into the hearing, and then we can get Mitch back up here. So unless, Casey, do you have something before we jump into the hearing?
That thing's gonna kill me yet tonight. Holy cow. So, that's how I lost it last time. Casey with Burleigh County Highway Department. One part, we had meetings with the City of Bismarck yesterday because City of Bismarck is rewriting Article 14, and accessory dwelling units came up there also. And we still have to go through all the public hearings and everything else. When we're talking about this, one of the ideas that was presented to us by the consultant was the existing is 800 square feet for accessory dwelling unit. They're talking 800 to 1,200 square feet. And do you allow 1 or 2 bedrooms in there? And we're talking right now, the majority of what we see and what and Mitch, you can correct me if you see something else, but the majority of what we see is a lot of it are for grandma or grandpa, and it's kind of the mother-in-law, father-in-law unit that's in there. But over time, the practicality of life is grandma and grandpa are going to pass away, and then that's there, and it's still available. Are people going to start renting those out and going through there? So we're kind of talking, how are we going to deal with these things in the future? And granted, with the city's ordinance, it means nothing once you get outside in the county except for the ETA area. And that was some of the question. Now, that has to go through a lot of public hearings, public input, feedback, relook at it, a lot of different things, but that's a lot of what's happening with these two. And it's, right now, that's the majority of what's happening. In 15 years, how are we going to start dealing with that? Because I don't think they're going to let them sit empty. And a lot of it was, BSC, University of Mary students, that's cheaper housing, potentially. They can stay there, and it's a little more quiet instead of the dorms, something like that. So that's just some other information in your considerations is all.
All right, thanks, Casey.
Yep.
All right, we'll move into the public hearing on this, and we'll open the public hearing. So if anyone would like to speak on behalf or speak to the Article 8 Special Uses Accessory Dwelling Units. Accessory Dwelling Units. Please approach the lectern, let us know who you are, where you're from, sign the roster. If anyone would like to speak on this, please approach. And this will be the last call for the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and move into discussion and action on the Article 8, Special Uses Accessory Dwelling Units.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Musson.
I think Mitch had said it right at the end. We're trying to create an ordinance so that we have something to enforce at a later date. The initial intent of this is for, as it says, for a family member. Mm-hmm. We all agree that it may end up being somebody else later. But when it becomes 4 BSC kids living in a 1-bedroom apartment with 2 sets of bunks in the bed, and Mitch has to go over there and say, all right, enough's enough. Now we have an ordinance. And that's really what this is for. As even Casey said, this is not for tomorrow. This is next generation. This is 10 years from now. This is what does Mitch have to enforce when it becomes the next or the one after that. And that's what this is for.
And maybe by then, you guys will allow rental properties. Who knows?
I think that was that's something that kind of goes through my head is that, well, if you're going to allow an accessory dwelling unit, then why not just allow 2 houses on each parcel, each property? I kind of throw that out there of, what would be the difference? What would change if you just said, well, you can just now have 2 houses? I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. I'm not suggesting that, but how does this not turn into that? And then, or maybe we should just allow a rental house to be built, and maybe that's not a bad thing. I don't know. I don't think it is a really good thing, but without rezoning to some other zoning that would allow, I would say, more of a high density dwelling.
Right.
But
And this is in front of us because this was brought to Burleigh County Commission as a project that somebody wanted to do, and we have an ordinance, so we need to get it in place.
Commissioner Conley.
Well, there is some, ordinances in Bismarck started around 2016, and I've been following them because that's the field that I work in. But there is a strong push for the people that need institutional-based care, like your nursing homes and those type of things, based on the family unit's skill or their ability to have adaptive equipment or staff come in. Those will always be necessary, but it's getting really expensive to go through nursing home. They have to spend their retirements down to $1,200, and then it's this combination, mostly Medicare, Medicaid through the federal government. our base rates are $10,000 a month, but there's people paying $35,000 a month. And all of that is a form of subsidy through mostly the government because of Medicare, Medicaid. What we know is if we can back it up scientifically, is there's less need, there's for medical and psychological consequences through the age dynamic or disability if you keep healthy families together. So having the ADU conversation helps with that, because I introduced a bill, and one of the representatives from 32 put it forward. It didn't pass, but League of Counties backed it up in favor and then offered some suggestions. League of Cities opposed, but they also told us a path to where it would be something, because they said it sounded like something that would be good in the fabric of how we go forward. So having something in place would help that process out.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, my battery on my laptop's about to die and I forgot my cord. I would feel more comfortable if we didn't even refer to bedrooms at all. We already have the limitation of 900 square feet, unless you're in a bigger area that's 1,500 square feet. If we could just remove the bedroom provision and the provision about owner occupied and relatives, because that's, as one of the other commissioners mentioned, might be challenging. So I'd feel a lot more comfortable if we did those two things: remove the issue about the number of bedrooms altogether, and not even talk about who lives in there. If you got a buddy or a friend or somebody in trouble wants to live there, I'd feel more comfortable about it.
I guess when I was reading through this, maybe I missed it, but is there anything in here saying you cannot charge someone rent to live there?
I don't believe so.
So really, someone could, right? And then you're technically renting it out. That is.
Yeah.
How do you approve or disapprove anything, right? I'm sure it's going to be somebody coming to us and saying, well, I heard this, or I this and this, and then, of course, then it'd have to be looked into. But, but I think if we said, okay, we're not going to limit those things, we're going to limit the size, and then maybe put a limitation on you can't charge rent. This isn't something you can rent out.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, let's start off with the fact that we do not allow multi-housing in Burleigh County. We don't allow it, period. We do allow duplexes. If somebody wants to put an addition to their house and have two houses on one in a duplex manner, you can go to an R3. We do not allow apartments. So this is what we're basically talking about here. It's allowing not a owner of the house or the family member, or just to start renting them out. That's multifamily. It's not allowed. So if they want to do a multifamily, we could create a district for that. But they do have a district R3s, which allows duplex or two families. They don't have to be related.
Just a different zoning. Yeah.
It's different zoning. So I don't know if consider rezoning some of the stuff R3 or not, but
gotcha.
That's what we're trying to avoid is getting into this blended district.
Sure.
So,
any further discussion or action? Casey.
Sorry, this goes back to some of our discussion from yesterday with City of Bismarck, because we talked about, do you want to list the one bedroom or two bedroom? And the idea was also brought up, what if you list none? And it's if you list no bedroom, or if you just say, if you don't address it, it means unlimited bedrooms are legal then. So you are doing apartments at that point. So that's why we were like, maybe you do want to list how many, because say you have one bedroom and there's a lady and two kids living in it, or you have two bedrooms and then there's two families living in that, and some people are coming in building houses and accessory buildings with those units so they can rent them out, and they're using that to help pay their mortgage, which that's, you guys get those fun decisions, so enjoy that stuff. But that was our thoughts on the 1 bedroom of why, and if you don't want to have it on there, that doesn't bother me, so I'd be able to go from there.
No, it's a good call out. Any discussion or action?
Well,
I'll make a motion that we allow 2 bedrooms and take out the stuff about owner occupied.
So accept the ordinance, but without.
Yeah, accept the ordinance, but change the 1 bedroom to 2 bedrooms and remove the language about owner occupied.
I would caution the owner occupied because you could turn it into a commercial.
Is there a second? Hearing none, motion dies, the lack of second. Is there further discussion or action on the motion, or on coming out of the hearing for accessory dwelling units?
I would move to approve it as written.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Munson, seconded by Commissioner Patrick, to approve the ordinance as written. Is there any discussion on the motion? Yes, commissioners are off.
Just one note on the owner occupancy stuff. There is already verbiage, or I guess somebody mentioned corporate apartment stuff. There's already verbiage in the non-conversion agreement that legal residence, the home may not be owned by a corporation, but the owner occupant may be a benefited person in a private trust or life estate. So that's already been addressed.
Okay. Commissioner Patrick?
I think that approving this is appropriate because it can be changed. We can add changes to it in the future. Like, for instance, I know that some of the commissioners are concerned about upon the notice in the back. That can be changed. Mitch can work on that, and that can be changed. But I think...
Not once it's approved.
Yeah, we can amend it later on.
Yes, you can amend it
Later on.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
Let's just fix it before we move it.
Well, I think that's something that
He
is
said
going
he
to
would
require
fix the
more
wording.
discussion, so I think that,
You could add that condition to the motion.
yeah. I think maybe I'll withdraw my motion. I'll make a motion that will say that we approve this with, I seconded the motion. He made the motion.
Right.
Yes, correct.
I would prefer to vote on this, and then if we want to make an amendment, we can make that motion afterwards.
Okay.
My only problem is Mitch already said he would fix the wording on that, so
So you're
Can we-
okay with that?
Fix the wording on,
on this paragraph,
Okay.
you would work on the wording.
what paragraph, please?
On the non-conversion agreement, upon notice to the owner of the property,
Violating Fourth Amendment.
If there's I was going to say, if there's an amendment you'd like to suggest for the wording on that, feel free. If you'd like to move to amend the motion, or to amend the motion, you definitely can do that.
Well, I think I know what Commissioner Strife was after, and I think that the problem is that if you require permission from the owner may say no.
Yep.
And continue to say no. And
well
continue to
then, but
say
then
no.
you have stuff built in that you can terminate the special use agreement, the special use permit. At the very end, it says termination of special use permit.
To be able to force any government employee access to property without owner's consent is a direct violation of the Fourth
Is
Amendment.
that allow that?
We're violating all the amendments tonight.
Yeah.
So
I would like to,
Then I would like to
amend it.
change the.
Make a motion to amend it.
I think we should change the motion, but that's up,
So
Well, you
give
could
me what
could
number
just,
and what letter, so I have.
There's no number or letter, it's on the.
No,
doc.
yep,
It's on the non-conversion
It's on the Burleigh
agreement.
County non-conversion
Non-conversion.
agreement. It's towards the end.
Is that non-conversion agreement even
Is that part of the ordinance,
actual
Mitch?
ordinance?
Is
Or
the-
is that just an accessory document?
Is the non-conversion agreement part of this ordinance?
The signature by the chairperson is after that. So it's the second to the last page.
Now I got, now I'm
Yes,
finally
it is.
caught up with you.
Section D, Section 5.D. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, special use permit, the development property owner must submit a side non-conversion agreement.
So but the wording of the non-conversion, the actual non-conversion agreement, is that part of the ordinance or not?
It's not written in this part of the ordinance. It just says that you have to sign a non-conversion agreement, and the non-conversion agreement must be recorded with the county recorder.
Okay, so then we're good. We're okay with the motion. If we want to change the non-conversion agreement, that would be a whole separate subject. That would.
Yeah, it's not written
Yeah.
in here
That's
as
something
such.
staff do.
It's just not like, Exhibit A.
So I think if it's something that we do want to change,
This
Yeah,
could
that's
be changed
administrative.
administratively.
that can be changed, so it's actually not part of the ordinance.
The ordinance.
So, okay, thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. Marla, if you could take us through that.
Okay. The motion was to approve the amendment as written.
Or the ordinance as written. Yep,
The
yep.
ordinance as written. Okay. Commissioner Munson,
Yes.
Commissioner Conley,
Yes.
Commissioner Patrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Streifel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rich,
We might have lost
Battery
him.
dead.
Battery
We might have lost him.
well, we're losing our internet and
Yeah.
Wi-Fi at 9 o'clock,
Okay.
so we might have lost him.
Oh, yeah, he's gone there.
Commissioner Zuroff
Yes.
and Chairman,
Yes.
and motion approved.
Okay. That is approved. Is there any other business other than adjournment?
Move to adjourn.
Okay. It has been moved.
No, I do have one question. We don't have anything on the consent agenda, and anything other than these items here, do we even have a meeting next month?
We never know until.
Okay.
Okay.
I would say I'll leave
Just
that
a
up to
real quick
Marla.
question.
You can, if there is nothing, please feel free to send out a cancellation.
Okay?
Okay.
I know of one that might be, but
It doesn't.
we'll check it out.
Okay. So there is a motion and a second to adjourn. Any opposition to adjournment?
I'll be here that day.
Hearing none,
So I'm
we're
at-
adjourned.